Welcome to the South Burbs Hitmen podcast with your hosts, Joe Mandel, Steven Zimmerman, and Vinnie Parisi. We're bringing you the White Sox coverage you need from the perspective of true Southsiders. Grab your Comiskey dog with an ice-cold beer and meet us at section 155. Everyone get on your feet for your South Burbs Hitmen!
That ball hit deep. Way back. You can put it on the board. Yes.
Jimenez in the air. Left field. He's your hero tonight. Thanks, Cubs.
Over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges, throws. Out. And the White Sox have won the World Series. Alexei. Yes. Yes! 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 History! A perfect game by Mark Burley, and what an unbelievable play by Dwayne Wise.
First pitch starts now.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of South Burbs Hitman. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mandel, and I'm joined, as always, by my White Sox brothers in arms. I'm talking about Vinnie Parisi and Steven Zimmerman. Gentlemen, how you guys doing tonight?
Doing very good, Joseph. Summer's winding down. The Sox season is about 80% of the way over. And the Columbus Blue Jackets just quote tweeted one of Puck Pro's tweets. So things are all good in the hood.
One of these things is not like the other.
I know. I'm just a random guy. I'm just a random guy.
That's what the show is going to be tonight, folks. And we'll allude to that a little bit more later. But Steven Zimmerman, how the heck are you?
It's good. It's good. It's been a interesting week. Busy week for me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where we even start with this team anymore. Just when you think shit can't get any worse, it does.
Yeah, and I think that's quite an appropriate place to start today. So if you're a White Sox fan, and you likely know this unless you've been living under a rock, but if you have been, we are here to shine a light for you. Unfortunately, last Friday at this past weekend, Friday night, there were two women that were shot in the bleachers, section 161 at the Chicago White Sox game, in or around the third inning. Just to be clear, the team, they still played the entire game. No one was evacuated, but they canceled the post-game concert for technical difficulties, and they evacuated the players' families, but progressed to not tell anyone in the ballpark. So before I get to the latest updates in this story today, Zim, I haven't talked to you about this yet, so I need to get your immediate thoughts on that slew of crazy information.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the most distressing part about all of it is that somebody got a gun into the stadium, right? Like, we go through all these security checks. It takes you an hour and a half just to get into the damn stadium, and somebody managed to get that in to what is supposed to be, a safe area, an area with security, an area that's highly protected. Like, it's frustrating. We all know that there's gun violence in Chicago, but there should be some places that are exempt no matter the city, the circumstances. So it's frustrating to hear about. It does sound like, from the details I've understood, it was incidental. It's not like this was an attack or anything like that. But again, somebody got a gun into a professional sports event. The implications of that are widely concerning across all major sports. And it makes you wonder what else is I mean, we all know that people sneak stuff into games, right? But like, that's the one thing that they're supposedly checking for with the metal detectors and all that good stuff.
Sure.
So yeah, like I say, it's concerning in some ways more than others. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing to be worried about for the future. If what I'm saying is coming across correctly, it might be a little scattered just because it's hard to, honestly, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around all of it. I know there's been a lot of comedy takes on Twitter and everything about that. But I think that's just people not knowing how to react to a situation that never should have happened.
And I think that's it in a nutshell. Is it's infuriating in more ways than one. And of course it's Chicago, so gun violence is going to be brought to another level. It's on the south side of Chicago. It's going to be brought to another level. Vinny, before I get to you, it was first reported over the weekend and Saturday when we were there, which we'll touch on that in a little bit, that this incident happened from a gun that was fired outside of the stadium. That was what was reported about 3 hours ago. The Chicago Police Department came out with a statement. I'm going to go ahead and read it here so that I want to make sure I'm saying everything correctly. This is the quote. "We are dispelling a lot of things. It's coming from outside. Like it's coming from the outside of the park is something that we've almost completely dispelled." So that to me, gentlemen, sounds like the Chicago Police Department is saying that most likely this happened from a gun that got brought in to the stadium. So Vinny, my question to you, we've all seen the video, which I will pull up in just a minute, but how could this happen in a section and not everyone go running? That's the thing that blows my mind.
Yeah, that is something that blows my mind. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I think there's something horrific and something relieving about finding out that it was from a gun inside the stadium. The reason it's relieving is because there can be more preventative things to keep it from happening again.
Sure.
Doing a better job of making sure that a gun doesn't get back into the stadium. If it was from outside the stadium, really kind of hard to prevent it from happening again unless you have a literal wall around Guaranteed Rate Field a mile away. It's kind of hard to figure out how you would stop somebody from allowing that to happen if it came from outside the stadium. So there is a sense of relief in that area. But the reason it's a little bit horrifying is because, a gun made its way into the stadium. I'm mystified by it. I am completely mind blown that it could have come from inside the stadium, but every single person in that section didn't get up and run. I think if it were an act of violence, every single person in that section would have got up and ran. And I also think there was a shooting at Guaranteed Rate Field. There's a shooting at the White Sox game. Sounds way worse than what actually happened. And that's why I know it's irresponsible to not cancel the game. Of course, I believe that. But I think if they cancel the game because of a shooting, there's madness in the streets and it's hard to contain. And, they must have somehow had a feeling that it wasn't an act of violence and that it wasn't something that should be considered dangerous, even though it is. But,
Yeah.
I mean, there are arguments for and against it. But, I mean, was there a silencer on it? I mean, all my knowledge of guns is playing Call of Duty. So,
Right.
I have no idea how anything like that could have happened without hearing anything.
If it's a single shot, it's really easy to confuse the sound for something else.
Fair.
It sounds like, excuse me, it could sound like a balloon popping, like a kid twisting the cap off a water bottle,
That's the comparison that was actually made by one of the women that got grazed, and she made a Facebook post about it. Again, I don't know the woman's identity. I just know everything was blurred out, but they said it sounded like a water bottle popping. And I just want to be clear that, again, this is strictly speculation, and this is what we're doing. We're just talking about the situation. How could they have known immediately that it was not a threat? There's only one way. There's only one way they could know that it wasn't a threat. And that, my friends, and again, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm strictly being speculative. Whether an undercover cop or a off-duty police officer or someone in the stands had a gun on them that accidentally went off, ricocheted off the bleachers, and hit somebody. Again, strictly speculative. It could have been a totally different situation. But for me, that's the only way you know that it's not a threat immediately.
We'll likely never know the full extent of all of it.
No, and we will not.
We'll probably see beefed up security measures at some point or another because of it.
Vinny and I were actually going to speak about that momentarily.
Yeah.
But yes, it's going to continue to be, I would imagine so as well.
So, I mean, all in all, like, and you can criticize however you want. Personally, I feel that it was handled, maybe not the best way that it could have been, but it was handled okay. They did a great job not to cause a mass panic, mass hysteria at the game. A little upsetting to find out they're evacuating, special people, but not other people.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I have a hard time with that.
I get it. Like, yeah, it's just the way the world works, unfortunately. And it doesn't matter where you are or what the situation is. Some people get preferential treatment. So yeah, all in all, like there's all kinds of stuff to talk about with it, but at the end of the day, again, I think they did a great job not causing panic and hysteria. They did the right thing by canceling the event after the game. And
for technical difficulties.
Right. I mean, whether it was or wasn't is neither really, I don't know. I know. It is what it is. But it seemed like they kept the section sort of cleared out at the very least. So people knew something was going on, but they controlled the flow of information however they did and took what could have been a very, very scary situation and kind of made it into something that people are able to very quickly laugh and joke about.
Yeah. Yeah. And ironically, you bring up the laugh and joke about portion. And I wouldn't be doing my due diligence on the show if I didn't pull some of the memes off Twitter and all that jazz. So as you can see, they're all about giveaways at the next ball game. Here's one here.
Because what's the thing we actually like the White Sox for? Giveaways.
Yeah. Of course, saw this on Twitter today. Ballistic vest night. Funny. Well, in its own dark way, it's funny. And then, of course, free pistol cleaning kit to the first 15,000 fans, 12 and over. Again, not real jokes, just putting this out there for people in case people are thinking we're reporting fact. These were things that were on Twitter that we just discovered, and you can't take in the bad without making a little bit of fun of it. So again, we send our thoughts and prayers to both women that were shot. Apparently they're both life threatening. Thank goodness. I just wish the White Sox would come out and make some sort of statement better than they did the night before, because I personally was a little caught aback that the only thing that they said was like, okay, there was a shooting incident, likely came from out of the ballpark. 2 people were injured. I get it. It's PR world, but I feel like they could have had a little bit more to it than that. That's my 2 cents on it. And I know the chat room's been pretty interesting into it a little bit as well. PZ says, is it possible one of the women had the firearm and it was a negligent discharge? Definitely possible. Again, I think anything's possible in the situation, but I think part of the thing is that they wouldn't. I don't think it was either of the women that got shot specifically, because police heavily interviewed them afterwards. They were given medical attention. If they had a firearm on them and they disposed of it, I imagine they would have found it. So that's the one part to me that says it probably wasn't the women that got shot. Now, I talked about it potentially being an off-duty cop or an undercover cop or someone that just happened to have a firearm that they snuck in that accidentally went off. For me, that's the most likely scenario. But again, as Zim pointed out, the odds are we are never going to get the answer to this. And unfortunately, no pun intended, this will be ammo for Cub fans for years on end.
I'd be careful if I were them.
Yeah, you don't want to start a fight out in section 161 now.
That very
Yeah.
true. But
Matthew says no idea what the context is, but the timing is impeccable.
Honestly,
being ignorant enough to think it can't happen at your place, that's what I would be careful of. Wrigleyville is a
Yes.
very different looking place when you go there on a non-game day.
Absolutely. And I just want to point out, too, this kind of thing happening, even though it again, it wasn't a malicious attack, right? From what we understand. I hate that it's going to like almost like inspire people in the wrong way. Like with these terrible school shootings and stuff. So like you're going to see the security be amped up and I can speak to this. I don't know. I don't think Vinny had the same experience that I did at the game on Saturday, but we both went to the game. Vinny and I met up, and of course we recorded a promo that I forgot to put out. Wow, I'm a moron. Sorry, Vin. I can do it for the fantasy football show. It was a good promo too. But anyway, where was I going with this? Security. I was there waiting in line for the gates to open. Vinny tailgated a little bit longer before going in. So I was there when gates first opened. People wanted their bobbleheads for Dylan Cease, which I'll bring down and show you guys later on. I'm sure Vinny's got one in his house too. Vin and Zim, this is the first time ever going into a ball game that they told me you must remove your belt and you must, any change you have in your pockets, you have to get rid of it. So I'm like, okay, was it going to White Sox charities? Do you just want me to toss it in the garbage? They put it on. They had us put it on the table. Luckily, I didn't have any change, but I saw so many people putting a pile of change on that little table in between the metal detectors. Really? If you're going to do that, at least have it go to Sox charities or something, or tell people in advance. I don't know. I was caught off guard by that. And Vin, I think you said you didn't have that same experience?
No, I didn't. I was curious if I was going to get a bobblehead at all because we walked in kind of late. I know that I'm pretty sure they were only going to people over 21, but I could be wrong on that. But I got one and didn't take off my belt. I wouldn't have had a loose change problem, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't really understand the loose change thing. Do they think people are going to like throw them at each other or something like they're freshmen
because
in high
it sets
school?
off the metal detectors. That's why they said it sets off the metal detectors if it's in your pocket.
Got it.
So like, why don't you just like put it through the thing on the side, if you have change? I mean, I don't know how many people are actually walking in with change, but like nonetheless, it's something to talk about. And I just want to point out real quick Foster's comment. I think it has to be said. Sox in the city need to release information on what the real story is so people can feel safe. My family goes to 2 or 3 games a year. And yeah, I'm in the same boat, Foster, and I think all 3 of us on this show feel strongly that the White Sox and the city of Chicago Police Department need to get to the bottom of it. There's conflicting reports, right? So in the beginning, it was from the outside of the park. Today, CPD superintendent, I'd have to get the exact name, released that statement I read earlier. But I'm also hearing that there's detectives on the case that are saying that the shots came from outside still. So there's a lot of gray area here. And I think we all know that we all agree there needs to be some more answers.
I agree. And they need to be better in every way, shape, and form. Security, safety, your communication, everything just has to be better. And to the person who allowed this to happen, like set off the gun or however the case may be, like shame on them. Be better with your firearm. There's a reason that like it's important to keep it in a proper holder. If you are allowed to have one for whatever reason, like you do use it properly. People can get hurt. People could die. So, I mean, it's just sad that we're even talking about this. It's kind of disgusting, but I mean, that's this world we live in. So be better, people. Be better.
Amen to that. And speaking of being better, I know Foster's got another story here. It says his brother-in-law's a cop. A guy with a knife was coming up to him and his wife and daughter in the parking lot, pulled out his badge, said, yeah, you don't want this, and leave here now. Guy took off. That's scary stuff. And, I do agree. Like Vinny said, security needs to be stepped up, not only going into the park, but in the parking lots, especially after Like pregame, the lots are pretty good because you have all the security with the dogs sniffing around. But postgame, especially like if you wait until after the crowd's clear and then you're going out to the car, you got to keep your eyes on. You got to watch your six. My wife was walking to the car one day ahead of me, and there was a guy walking around bare ass naked, pissing all over the place. And it's like, not for nothing. Like security's got to catch these people. So I don't know, and rant about that, but nonetheless, what an awful situation at a terrible time. And ironically, this all falls during the time of relocation conversations. Zim, is this strictly a coincidence?
Oh yeah, very much a coincidence. There's no way. Like that would be absolute criminal. No, Jerry's not that dumb. I have to dismiss it from my brain. I can't entertain it. No, it's all coincidental. The relocation conversation is happening again, probably just because the team is bad and they don't want us to look at the product on the field. The soonest the White Sox could relocate is 5 years from now. 3 sites, the United Center, Arlington Heights, and Soldier Field, if they were to leave guaranteed rate. Well, I don't see how any of those could happen. The United Center, Soldier Field, I think, is actually the most likely of the 3.
I hate it so much.
Hey, lakefront baseball team would be pretty cool, not gonna lie. They could easily reconfigure the stadium for it. But again, they would be in a similar situation to what the Bears are currently in, where they don't actually own their stadium. Like right now, the White Sox own their stadium. They get 100% of residuals from anything that happens there. If they go and start leasing from the city, they just all of a sudden start losing billions of dollars a year. I don't see that happening. The Arlington Heights thing, the Sox, we might be the South Burbs Hitmen. The Sox are not a suburbs team. The Cubs are more of a suburban team than the White Sox have been or will be.
Arlington Heights is and the part of the thing is Arlington Heights is north side. That's all Cub fans anyway.
It's so north
no
side.
Sense.
It's so look. All due respect to the people of Arlington Heights, the White Sox are a working man's ball team. Like they would stick out like a sore thumb. Who'd be rooting for the White Sox in Arlington Heights? The people who mow the lawns out there,
all the business owners. Yeah,
that's just it. It'd be the guys building the Bears' new stadium going to the White Sox games. It would be the construction workers and the gardeners and guys like that, the street sweepers and trash men, because that's who goes to Sox games. Like that's part of what we take pride in as Sox fans is the blue collar aspect of the fan base. Going to Arlington Heights would be a nightmare, I feel like, for them. And the United Center, I can't imagine the United Center being anything. People already don't want to go to the United Center.
It's worse than Sox in terms of location. So
yeah, it's a terrible location. It's a terrible parking situation. It's not a super great venue in the first place.
See, I'll disagree about the parking. The parking situation is much improved at at the United Center.
I mean,
that's it though.
All right. Comparatively to the White Sox stadium now, I still think it's a pretty poor situation overall.
It's definitely not a good. It's not a better location than they are currently.
Yeah.
And then one thing I want to bring up, Vinny and Zim, how the hell do you set up the United Center to house baseball? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I would take up like 2 of the 4 parking lots, and they would probably have to like tear down some homes or something. I don't know what the situation would be. That's one of I don't see it. Arlington Heights is also it's north. It's more north than Wrigley Field by a lot. So calling them the Southsiders would just 100% be inaccurate at that point. They'd have to get rid of that jersey. I'd be shocked if it's any of those 3, really.
At this point, I think we're more likely. I think we're more likely to move to Nashville than they are to do any of these 3 options, personally.
I totally agree.
And I
No,
I hate all four options, to be honest.
if they want to move out, they need to go to a south suburb or just like go all the way and go somewhere else. But as far as a new stadium goes, I just don't know how likely it honestly is to happen. They just built this stadium 25 or 30-ish years ago, which I know does put it in some of the older stadiums. I believe it's in the top 5 oldest stadiums in baseball right now, just because there's been so many new stadiums built over the last few years. But all the same, like, it's not a bad park. It's not like it's in disrepair. It's not like there's anything wrong with it.
No, gosh, no.
It's
The
in a
park was-
sketchy neighborhood, but like it's going to be in a sketchy neighborhood if it's within the city limits of Chicago. So what do you do about
Well, see,
that?
and that's the thing is like Bridgeport's not really sketchy. It just happens to be on the edge of some bad parts. Like Bridgeport itself, where the park is, it's a good neighborhood. It just happens to be not too far away from like the projects and some of those rougher areas, and that's unfortunately a big stadium is going to attract that kind of thing. It's unfortunate, and I think we all would love them to stay where they are, especially if there's an ownership change. Maybe they're just like, what, we have this beautiful ballpark here. It was built, I think it was 1993. I have to double check.
It was
Opened
built in 1991. It is the
91.
8th oldest stadium in Major League Baseball.
Yes, but it was built in 1991. But they refurbished and did a whole different look change after the World Series win. I want to say it was 06 or 07.
Yep.
Because in 91, it had the blue outer shell around the outside.
And
then
the seats were blue until like 07 or something.
Yep, the seats were blue, except they left the one seat in the outfield where
two
seats where Konerko and Posednik's home runs hit.
Yep.
And everything else is removed. But and then the outer shell on the top of the dome was like this like light blue color. And then when they redid it, they made it look more like old Comiskey Park with like, modernized looks and kind of rafters and stuff like that. So technically the park was built in 91, but there's been a lot of change since then.
That's very fair. The thing people also forget is there's 6 years left on the lease. So things could be figured out over 6 years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even want to say it out loud. Can violence get worse in the city of Chicago? I mean, I guess it could. I hope not.
It could.
Yeah, PZ makes a great point is, if they moved out of the city of Chicago, they'd have to establish an entirely new fan base. That's a big reason why I don't think it would happen. I mean, like we talked about last week, if they leave Chicago as a whole and go to a new city, they wouldn't be the White Sox anymore. They'd become the I don't know, Nashville Farmers or whatever the hell they want out there. The Nashville, no, it'd probably be something to do with music. The Nashville Sounds or something like that is what they call themselves. Something like that.
Nashville Notes.
Yeah, there you go. But so
Jerry.
You're already, effectively restarting all over with that. I mean, how many White Sox fans, honestly, how many White Sox fans have sworn from day one that they would never root for the Cubs, but if the White Sox went to Nashville, they'd turn into Cubs fans, Like, Chicago's proud of its teams, probably for all of the wrong reasons, because our teams suck. But I don't see it. I don't see it going over well, no matter where they move to. And if they move out of the city of Chicago, they damn well better rebrand the whole thing.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's not going to happen.
And I'm not even talking just like moving out of the state. I'm literally talking if they were to move 20 miles south, 20 miles west. That's it. You're not Chicago anymore. We give people like Braggs enough shit for living out in Indiana and saying, well, I live in the Chicagoland area. No, you're from Indiana, bro. Don't try and say otherwise. Like, It's a point of emphasis, a point of
Wow,
pride.
that's
among
a direct shot at someone.
Okay, first of all, it's brags. I think we're allowed to. Second of all, it's just an example because it's a very well known, thing that he likes to say he's from the Chicagoland area. He's in on the joke. I would agree he's from the Chicagoland area, but don't try and say you're from Chicago. Like there's a difference. I don't even try to say I'm from Chicago.
Yeah, I say I'm a Chicagoan living in St. Joseph, Michigan. Oh, wow. We actually have a surprise guest that I didn't actually think was going to be able to make it. Although it appears his internet might not be working very well right now. So I'll wait until it works to bring him on. But that's enough White Sox talk for today, yeah?
Hey, no, we need real White Sox talk for a second here.
They're losing 6-0.
No, Vinny and I made a bet last week, and I want to know.
No, I was the
what my
moderator.
payout
You and Joe went at it over it. I was the moderator.
We were trying to determine whether the White Sox would reach 80 losses or 50 wins first, and I would just simply like to point out that the White Sox still have not reached 80 losses. All right.
If you told me they weren't going to reach 80 losses till the night of our next show, I would have thought you were both crazy.
I mean, I thought they would have reached it already, honestly. The fact that they're at 52 wins right now, I'm like, guys, 11 more the rest of the way. Can we just get 11 more wins? Let's not get triple-digit losses. That's all I'm rooting for the rest of this season, because that's about all there is left to root for.
Yeah.
Let's not be as bad as Kansas City.
Yeah, and the lottery makes it less fun to cheer for losses, right?
Right. The lottery actually makes it more fun for this time of year because you're like, all right, well, we know the Sox are going to get a good pick, but like we can still root for them to win games because, they're awful either way.
Exactly. And the MLB draft doesn't change things the way the NHL draft or the NBA draft, which those leagues tanking still doesn't work all that well either because Connor Bedard going to the Blackhawks, that makes it like 7 straight years that the number one worst team didn't have the number one pick.
Meanwhile, in the NFL, you've got Arizona starting a quarterback next week that wasn't on their roster 3 days ago.
That
they're just blatantly
need a lottery
tanking.
now. I think it's time now. I used to be against it for the NFL because I didn't see tanking as visually as the other leagues, but now I do.
No, I love it. Because,
really? You like tanking? I'm cool with it.
Because Trey Lance still gets drafted at number 3,
That's fair.
Fair. Trayvon Walker still ends up as a number 1 overall pick. Like, is Trayvon Walker
watch
a
what
bad
you say
player?
about the Jaguars.
Hey, let me finish. Is Trayvon Walker a bad player?
Baby.
No, absolutely not. Is he worthy of the number 1 overall pick? No, absolutely not.
I agree. They regret not taking the kid Detroit got.
Hutchinson has turned out to be a stud.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun about the NFL is because prospects are so much less surefire in that league. So
that's true.
It's because there is no development system for these guys. All the other leagues have some sort of developmental system. Even if it is just, the summer league for the NBA, these guys get a chance to be around veterans, to learn the game, to get up to speed with the professional level versus college. And frankly, the difference between college and professional is not nearly as drastic in something like basketball versus something like baseball or something like the NFL. So that's why I love the fact that there is no minors in football too, because it makes it so much harder to get those draft picks right. It makes those draft picks so much more valuable. It makes Trey Lance being picked at 3 overall even funnier. They
got
who would have thought? Who would have thought that this guy who's only taken 400 snaps since his sophomore year of high school wouldn't work out in the NFL? I don't know.
That's
Sorry,
true.
I shouldn't poke at Trey Lance. It's not his fault that he was drafted so high. In fact, he did absolutely everything right. He's making a boatload of money. I would feel bad for the guy if he wasn't a gazillionaire because of all of this. The guy's made over $30 million just by being that draft pick. So I'm not really going to feel that bad for him. But it does suck that, he's in the national spotlight going through all of it.
I mean, he's not even the number 2 QB in Dallas. He's the number 3.
Who's number 2? Cooper Rush?
Yeah, I'd say
Okay.
Rush is number 2 in my book.
Yeah. Hey, I scored. Speaking of backup quarterbacks, I got my first Tyson Bagent card yesterday.
There you go.
Cool.
So his stuff is selling like hotcakes right now, and especially after he's been announced as the number 2 quarterback, basically. That's super exciting. So,
Well, hey, nothing like the Chicago Bears to have 2 Justin Fields on their team.
I guess.
No joke. I mean, Bagent's style of play is as stunningly close to that of Justin. I'm not saying that they're clones of each other, but what I am saying,
I think Bagent is way better in the pocket.
I mean, I would agree with that too, but I'm just saying, like, they're both really electric players, and
yeah, it's fair. It's fair.
You guys want to talk some fantasy?
We can, because this is a good time to remind everybody that next week we will not be having our regularly scheduled South Burbs Hitmen, as we will be doing the Barroom Fantasy Draft. We are running a 12-man league this year, so as to include our founder and beloved podfather, Aldo.
That's right. Aldo Gandhi will be there. A bunch of your network hosts, including one of my fantasy football podcast co-hosts and my radio father. I'm talking about John Santucci, the Tooch, and he's with us right now. What's up, Tooch? Tooch is on mute.
On mute, but hey,
there he is.
I was trying to unmute, but there's lag, I don't know why. What the hell?
You're here. We got you.
Yeah, Wi-Fi. I'm here with my radio son and Vinny. My first time with Vinny, really, right?
I think once or twice.
Maybe once before.
Yeah,
Vinny was Hanover Park Little Leaguer when I was coaching Little League. I gotta bring up the picture of my coaching days.
I have that hat and jersey. I have that jersey. I have that jersey in orange, blue, and gray. I'm not even kidding.
And I always tell the story that I was walking up one time before a game, and there was one dude hitting a long freaking home run. It was Vinny.
It's the one thing in life I was ever good at.
Hit
was
the ball
hitting
a mile.
Far. Yeah, I couldn't play any other position other than first base. But I had to hit it to the wall to get a double. But I was able to hit it to the wall with regularity.
Vinny and his brother Joey were in the league back when I was a board member and coaching my son. Zim, you look skinny compared to me, but
I'll take it.
I haven't seen Vinny in a while. I mean, Zim in a while, but Joe, my radio son, and Vinny.
What's up, buddy?
Vinny, you're kind of like my other radio son now, since we have
it's getting there. It's getting there. If I dominate your guillotine league one more year, though, I swear to God, you guys are going to be my sons.
You almost died like 6 times.
Yeah, 6 times. Yep.
He beat me in the most ridiculous way ever. You want to tell that story, Vin?
Yeah. Monday Night Football, Bucks. I forget who the Bucks were playing, but it doesn't matter. They won the game, or they lost the game in the end, but Joe had like a 0-point whatever lead on me, and I was about to get chopped. And Tom Brady hikes the football, and he pitches it to whoever the running back was in that moment, and he ran. And they started to do the what's it called, the rugby style, we'll keep lateraling it till the clock runs out type of deal to end the game. And they chipped it to Godwin, who picked up a couple yards before pitching it. And Godwin put me ahead of Joe Mandel, and he was eliminated by
0.01
something. Yeah. And then freaking I ended up going on to win the whole thing. So I made it to week 10
amazing.
in year 1 and won the whole thing last year. So
yeah.
I have
what do you think of the format for guillotine?
It is by far my favorite fantasy in any sport, I think. And I've done
so
dynasty.
Hard, though, man.
I've done dynasty hockey leagues. I've done baseball leagues where you could keep like your top 3 people. I've done football leagues where the quarterbacks get 100 points a game. I've done it all, and that one is by far my favorite.
It's great that you bring it up because there's so many people out there.
A guillotine?
No, he's shaking his head. No,
gotta have Zim try it out if he's interested. We got some slots.
And I know Foster here in the chat had talked to me. He was interested, so I'll have to hook him up with you.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Foster, we're going to talk and tell all our listeners, because there's a lot of people out there that don't know what a guillotine league is in fantasy. So, layman's terms, there is a team for every week of the NFL season. 18 teams. You draft in the beginning. There's no kickers, and no defenses, and just offensive players. Every single week, the lowest scoring team out of all the teams in the league gets chopped out of the league. All the players from that roster go on to waivers, and you have, I think it's $200 free, right, to bid on. Use fake money over the
1,000.
Sorry, 1,000 fake dollars to use over the course of the season.
Yep.
And you can bid on players it's blind bidding against the other guys for those players that go on to waivers. It's absolute pandemonium, and it's just so much fun.
It is. Yep. It's the most challenging. 18 teams, mate. Get past like round 1 and 2, and you're like, who the hell am I drafting? It's like there's nobody left, The draft
is insane. It is definitely crazy.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun, the format.
It's hard, yeah. The draft is hard as shit. You got to just like take a flyer on somebody towards the end of the draft.
It's true. And then people whose flyers don't work end up getting chopped early. And then at other points, it's like, when do I use my money? Do I save some of it for the end of the year? Then you realize at the end of the year, nobody else is going to have that much money left. And a Travis Kelce might cost you $4 in week 11, because everybody's going to be out of their money. And as long as you have more money than everybody else, then you'll have a chance to really pick up guys on the cheap. So, my biggest strategy last year was looking at what was the most money someone else could spend on this guy. And that's how you win every wire that you want towards the end, if you make it that far.
Yeah.
And week 1 through 10, you just have to hope to survive.
It's hard to balance, because you're like, man, I was almost chopped. I got to buy somebody, during the first, first part of the season, first half of the season. I got to get this guy, spend $250 or $500, on somebody, $400, and then, you're not going to have, like Vinny said, money at the end of the year. But I will tell you, this year is I think this year, whether you're playing PPR, regular fantasy, or guillotine or anything, this year, the draft position or rankings and the strategy for drafting, it's the toughest this year.
The game has changed too, and it's amazing how one and a half seasons can really change how fantasy is put together. Yeah. Almost every quarterback is decent to really good. You can wait longer on a quarterback. You don't have to take a quarterback in the 2nd or 3rd round anymore. I did a draft yesterday where I got Joe Burrow in the 6th and I got Tua in the 9th as a backup. I'll take that every day of the week. The new strategy, guys, is it's wide receiver and get your top tier tight end.
Almost like that's how I've been drafting for 3 years and have almost won the Barroom League all of those years because of it.
Yeah, and running back so scarce. Not only that, but so many teams are using a running back.
Not valued either.
Sorry, I don't mean to toot my own horn on that one, but it's just like I caught a lot of flack for going my RB0 strategy the last couple of years, and now it's like, oh my God, we have to draft wide receivers early. It's like, yeah, you guys should have figured this out before you let me start stacking my team with Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams and Jamar Chase, and I wound up with Mark Andrews at tight end. It's like, come on, guys.
Hey, if you won
like, of course I'm going to win with all of that in a PPR league.
If you actually won the league once, though, you'd be able to toot your horn a little louder.
I sure would. But I don't know how to play my running backs. So I always end up losing because those running backs, you still do have to have them on the roster. It still does matter how you play them and when you play them. You can't always get lucky and find, somebody like Deontay Foreman, who broke out last year after the McCaffrey trade. You can't always get lucky and have, a Justin Fields fall to you in the 12th round because everybody else is to where Jalen Hurts, is another guy who that happened with a lot last year. There's guys like that every year, though. It always happens. I think luck is just as important as strategy when it comes down to it at the end of the day. And it's not even saying like hope guys don't pick the guys that you want. It's just like, screw it. Romeo Doubs has to be good if Devontae Adams isn't there. And it's like, well, he was good, but he wasn't fantasy good. Like,
yeah, I don't know if there's any Packers that I'm really excited about. I'm definitely not excited about Christian Watson. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Watson's really going to blossom. You know how many drop balls he had last year? He's one of the dropsiest players in all of football.
Didn't he have like a 4 touchdown game?
He
did. He have he had a 4 touchdown game, right? Or 5 touchdowns or something.
Yeah, that was
one game. I know, but
yeah,
it's like that's the ceiling, though.
No, I think Aaron Jones goes through the roof for the Packers because how do you help out inexperienced quarterbacks by getting your run game going? Well, Aaron Jones has already been one of the best runners in the league, so now you're just going to give him the ball even more often.
4th round, I see him going in 4th round, 5th round.
Yeah, Tooch, do you have a league winner for us in the late 2nd to mid 4th round? Is there a guy that you think in there is going to finish potential guy that can win your league?
I think you have to look at the Baltimore Ravens a little bit this year because they've got a new offensive coordinator that's, going to change a little bit of the old kind of clunky offenses they used to have where, they put a little bit more emphasis on the passing game. And then, of course, you have Lamar Jackson and his legs. You got J.K. Dobbins, who's I think this will be more than a year removed from an ACL tear, ready to break out. And then they have a really nice young wide receiver named Zay Flowers, a little guy who got about the same amount of hype as Jerry Jeudy did when he came into the league. And then, of course, you've got Mark Andrews still there, who's arguably second banana to Kelsey. So to me, this is a year where you can really look at the Ravens as being one of those teams. So one of those.
And you got Duvernay and you have Beckham there as well now. Beckham Jr.
Odell Beckham is there, right? Exactly. Yeah. And then, are always gonna. So the Chiefs are a little interesting this year. I think you're seeing Kelsey going 1st round and early 1st round because people want that advantage at tight end, that no one else has because the offense goes through Kelsey.
Sure.
So he's almost like taking a top wide receiver. And don't be fooled by the projections for points because I think he'll be. He might be behind Jefferson and Chase at 3 if he were But the interesting couple guys they got that are taking the place of what's his name? Tyreek Hill. They signed Kadarius Toney in the offseason, who's kind of one of those speedy breakaway
boomer bust.
Tremendous athlete. And then Sky Moore is the other guy. One of those two guys, I've actually been grabbing a couple of those guys late, if not both of them, just to see if you hit on one of them, those guys might, open it up a little bit. But another guy I think you got to look at is with Terry McLaurin's injury and Curtis Samuel's injury. I look at Jahan Dotson a little bit over, and Sam Howell's been playing well. I think they got something for a young quarterback over there for the Anders. There's a guy that can keep the chains moving and maybe put up some points. They're gonna grind it with Brian Robinson. Antonio Gibson's out going to come in and split out, runner or receiver, and then you got the Penn State receiver.
I love that, man.
Tooch, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Would you take Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey in the same draft?
Yeah, I love stacking players, man.
I know there are people that fear that, though, Tooch. There are people that are like, you can't get 2 guys on this. I'm like, if they're both good,
why
not?
Yeah, if it's a quarterback and a receiver, I love that. I mean, Joe would take Burrow and Chase in a heartbeat.
This is what I.
Yeah. I took Burrow and Boyd because I wanted that stack. late round flyer on Boyd, but I will say I hate it for a different reason, not because I dislike the stack. For that specific combo, if you're going to get Kelsey and Mahomes, you likely have to go first, second round if you want to guarantee that. And I don't like that. I wouldn't do that personally because of what you have to give up to get it. But I wouldn't mind the stack if I didn't have to get Mahomes in the second round.
Well, I only asked that because I play in a league where quarterbacks get, I don't know the exact rules. They'll end a game with 70, 80, 90 points.
Yeah.
It's like one of those types of league where the commissioner stacked quarterback points. So if
you get a point per completion, one of those leagues?
Maybe it's something like that. And like Josh Allen, Mahomes, Burrow, even Lawrence a couple times last year, Fields too. There were weeks where they got like 75, 80 points. I'm like, okay, I'm drafting this league I didn't know that last year. That's why you look at your league rules, idiots. But I didn't do that. And I had an okay year. I made the playoffs, but I had no chance at winning the thing by the time, one of those like 8-7 teams or whatever you come across. No chance. But I think I would go Kelsey Mahomes or Mahomes Kelsey in this league specifically. So that's why I asked about stacking.
Yeah, I mean, like Joe said, you probably have to take those guys. Kelsey definitely in the first round, then you probably have to come back. I don't think Mahomes is going to last till the third round. So
no,
after that, you better be drafted. You better be on your game draft. You got to get guys like Dobbins and Dameon Pierce to just fill out your running backs. Then you got to take guys later on like Olave and Pickens, because you're going to miss out on a lot of those top guys, whether it's from Hill to Diggs to Garrett Wilson, all those top guys up there. Garrett Wilson has looked really tremendous by all accounts from camp with Aaron Rodgers. And
he looked really good on preseason work on last week too.
That's going to be the Jets are an intriguing team to me. Now they have a great defense, which is going to give Rodgers a little extra chance. But Breece Hall, you got Breece Hall come back. When Breece Hall was in there, I think he played only about 4 games. He was a top running back. He was putting up as many points as Derrick Henry, and then you've got Dalvin Cook is there too. Yeah. But that's and then the receivers over on the Jets he's got some good receivers over there too for Aaron Rodgers.
He brought some Packers over there. He's got Cobb and he's got
Lazard. Yep. The Jets are that's going to be an interesting division. People would say that the Bills are the favorites to win that division, but Miami and the Jets are going to give them a run for it. And then you also have Bill Belichick in that division. That's going to be a really tough division to figure out which teams are going to finish in what order.
And if Miami gets Jonathan Taylor, that's going to be tough.
They have like 4 running backs as it is. What do they need? Right? They've got Raheem Mostert. No, he's 31 years old. You got Jeff Wilson. Mostert and Wilson, they've never finished a full season. And then I forget who else is there. You got what's that? Salvon Ahmed. He's decent too. Yes. And then Devin A. Chain. That work. They had Taylor there. Who are they going to keep? There's not enough rock to go around.
Well, there'd have to be some of those guys I'm sure one of those guys would be in the trade package with some sort of pick. I would imagine.
What do you guys think of the Colts rookie core? I think he might be a pretty good fantasy player. I might take a stab at him later on. Just see guys be running for his life. He may break off some long runs and finish with like 70 to 100 rushing yards every game, because the Colts should be one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Well, he's got the job locked down. He's officially the starter.
Yeah,
he's got weapons. For now, of course, he's still got, they got some quality wide receivers there, and he's going to have to run. I like him as a late round flyer for sure.
If he's a good player, he's going to be a good fantasy quarterback for sure. And he could be a good player like a YouTube quarterback, kind of like Fields has been. And, Fields is 5-20, but people are going to draft him as their starting quarterback this year because he'll get you a lot of fantasy points because of the YouTube type plays. I could see Anthony Richardson being very similar to that. I'm excited to watch the Colts actually, because just the way he plays, I'm like, this really, speaking of boom or bust, this guy could, if he makes an impact the way we know he can physically, like in terms of his ability to run, and the ball looks pretty coming out of his hands, right? At least it did to me. So, I
And
mean,
he's got Pittman Jr. to throw to, so
yep. And if they're bad enough, I know this isn't going to affect this year's fantasy football, but it will next. If they're bad enough, wouldn't it be funny to see Reggie Wayne's kid end up right back in Indianapolis? That'd be pretty funny, wouldn't it?
that could be.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Or Marvin Jones, I mean, or Harrison. Is it Harrison?
Yeah.
I get my those old.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison.
That's what I
Jr.
meant.
He's awesome.
That's what I meant. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State. Yeah, imagine if he ended up back in frickin' Indianapolis.
I'd
That'd be
rather
wild,
see him in the
wouldn't it?
Bears uniform, but
I think for that,
we got the Panthers pick.
that's what I was gonna say. The Panthers pick would have to be bad, I think.
Yeah,
And that could be it. That could be potential. As well.
I think the Panthers will be one of the 5 worst teams in this next season.
I do too. And I don't know how you guys feel about this guy, but I was watching The Herd the other day, and Colin Cowherd picked him as a playoff team.
Oh,
and
he's out of his mind.
Colin has some bad takes every now and again, but he's also oddly nailed a couple NFL picks playoff wise. And like the Vikings last year and the Dolphins, everyone was clowning him, and he ended up being right on them both making the playoffs. This year, his team that he likes is the Panthers. I'm like, ugh.
Well, they get the quarterback shakeup.
If you watched Bare Their Souls 2 weeks ago on Bears State of Affairs, I totally flamed Cowherd for when he gave out his list of quarterbacks who would never win a Super Bowl. One of them was Dwayne Haskins, who was killed last year.
Yeah, he's for sure not gonna win a Super Bowl.
That's a gimme.
Yeah.
And then the Buccaneers are going to be straight awful.
Yep.
I
They
think
were bad with Tom Brady.
Yeah. They're going to be one of the worst teams. And they might have the top overall pick next year. Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. Those are your 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Their defense is bad.
Tough
Their offensive
sledding.
line just lost their best, one of their best offensive linemen. But,
I would bet you good money that they're going to be in the running on PJ Walker.
Yeah, maybe. I hope they just stick with Baker and lose, though. I want them to get Caleb Williams. The Cardinals, they have Kyler Murray. They'll ruin Caleb Williams if they get him. I want to Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get Caleb Williams. That way I could still keep on rooting for them now that Tom's gone. I have no interest in the Buccaneers without Tom there. I'd like to just stay rooting for the Buccaneers when they're not playing the Bears.
Yeah.
Caleb
no
Williams
doubt
is something special, man.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I have a couple guys I wanted to spotlight for potential league winners. One of them is an earlier round pick, but he's a guy that's going towards the mid to lower half of the running backs taken off the board. I think Tony Pollard finishes the year as running back number 1. I do. He's going to catch a lot of passes. He doesn't have to deal with Zeke anymore. His leg is healed. It was a break, but it wasn't as severe as a break as some of the past ones you've seen. Pollard's the guy on an electric offense. You saw what he could do last year. Tony Pollard,
there's no one behind him.
There's nobody behind him. It's currently, I'm seeing him go mid to second, sometimes tail
mid
end
to
of
late
the second round.
Yep.
And I'm not comfortable in myself to do this, but I would take him first overall as a running back off the board if he was still there for me. That's how much I like him. So
I've been hesitant because of the injury history, and he's not a big running back, but like you said, there's nobody else there. His Deuce Vaughn is 5'6", 170. He's a gadget back, like Darren Sproles type third down back. But I've taken him a few times in the among the thousands of mock drafts I've done in preparation for the Barnum draft. But,
and then
your other one's Ramondre Stevenson, Joe.
It's not actually,
okay.
But
you've loved him the past couple of years.
I do still love Stevenson this year. Don't get me wrong, but that's not who I was.
I do too.
He's a great value, Stevenson, where he's being drafted. But what I was going to say is the best value wide receiver on the entire board this year is a guy who has been a top 15 wide receiver every year, except last year.
Vinnie and I guess.
Yes, the last. I'll let you guess at that, and then I'll give you one more clue that'll probably give it away.
Okay. Want to go first, Vinny?
Is it Calvin Ridley?
It is not.
Okay, because I like Calvin Ridley coming back.
His stock is going way up. You can't get him after the third round right now.
Got it. You're right. Okay. Sorry.
Is it Tyler Lockett?
It is not. This guy's he's been a top 15 and usually is top 10, except last year he did not score a touchdown. And because of that, he was wide receiver 30.
My second guess would have been this.
Is
Brandon Cooks.
It is not Brandon Cooks. It's
wow,
actually Deontay Johnson with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
He is a top 10 wide receiver.
Good value.
The volume he's going to get. This is a guy that is going to outperform his ADP at wide receiver 30. This is a guy that's going into the 6th, sometimes 7th round, sometimes later. But I'm all over Deontay Johnson this year.
I like the other kid too, man. George Pickens is a beast, man.
I like both of those guys.
He's a bully. Pickens is a bully. I wanted the Bears to draft him so hard last year. They did not draft.
Drafted him yesterday.
Who's
Deontay? Love hearing you say that. Love hearing you say that. Drafted him in my NFL league yesterday.
He's a guy that knows how to get open. He's a PPR monster. It's just sometimes he doesn't hold on to the ball. But
he led the league last year in receivers tackled inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. That sucks.
That's a hell of a stat, isn't it?
Yeah. I hope that doesn't come back to cost him a couple 2-3 schmil.
Yeah.
When he goes for a new contract.
Sure, but hopefully he makes up for it this year. But
yeah.
Is there any guys that you are flat out avoiding, Tooch, in your drafts? I know we'll be doing our show. Of course, we do Fantasy Football Goon with you, me, and our other co-host, Adam Schaum, who unfortunately couldn't make it on the show as a last-minute request. But are there any guys that you're not drinking the Kool-Aid, you're avoiding with all costs? You don't want to touch them with a 10-foot pole?
Well, like in some leagues, if it's anywhere from 12 to, or if you're playing guillotine, 18 teams, you got no choice. You got to pick these guys. But I have been hesitant to take any of the Buccaneers players, whether it's Evans or Guy. And Evans is so good, man. Just for year after year, he's close to 100 catches and 1,000 yards. But Godwin's always injured, so I'm hesitant to take him. One year he was freaking a league winner. Finishes like wide receiver 1 with like 1,400 yards and over 100 catches. I don't know. It was like 4 years back, I think. And then Rashad is interesting to me. Is that his name? Rashad White? The guy who's going to be toting the rock in Tampa.
Tampa? Yeah.
Rashad White. He's a little interesting. I think there's nobody else around this guy either. He could be a decent, number 2 or number 3 running back. So, but I've been hesitant to take Tampa Bay wide receivers.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. And my do not draft guy is a hot take. It's a first rounder. He's one of the top wide receivers in the league for many, many years now. But I'm scared to draft him. I won't touch him. And I'm talking about Cooper Kupp. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. He could be out for 3 to 4 weeks. What happens when you have an older wide receiver that's dealing with a hamstring injury? You've seen it time after time again. Mike Evans, Julio Jones. These are guys that cannot consistently get in the game. And where Cooper Kupp is being drafted, roughly the 3rd or 4th wide receiver off the board, first round or beginning of the 2nd, I'm not touching Cooper Kupp with a 10-foot pole. Yeah. I think he is going to be I think he's going to be hurt a good chunk of the year, and I'm staying away. And my other bit is I'm not taking a quarterback inside the first 5 rounds.
I have been hesitant to take, but I'm probably wrong on this. DeAndre Hopkins on the Titans. It's just like Titans wide receivers never seem to come out to anything, and
Titans
Hopkins
scare me.
The offense, it flows through Derrick Henry. He's getting close to 30 years old. But Hopkins, it's probably irrational because I think he'll probably be decent. It's just the quarterbacks over there are terrible. You know?
Yeah, I don't.
See,
love the-
I
don't love the
I
Titans.
like Levis better than I like Tannehill. I don't like either, but I think there is some value in Levis if you're in like a dynasty or like a 16-man league. I think you draft Levis because I think eventually it's only a matter of time until he's the starter. I think.
Like Tannehill is starting, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, I believe he's on the top of the depth chart. Let me look it up.
I think there's more of a ceiling to Tannehill's success than Levis just because of age and less film and
experience.
experience. Yep. Yeah, but I don't think necessarily either of them are going to be great for DeAndre Hopkins. I was stunned when he went there. When a guy like that becomes a free agent, it
Why
always
would you
blows
go
my
there?
mind. It always
Yeah.
blows my mind when they can choose any team in the league, right?
Yeah.
And it always blows my mind when they don't end up in Kansas City, Buffalo, or Cincinnati. And I would give a slight nod. Baltimore and Jacksonville, I think, could pick up some wide receivers too. Same thing with the Chargers, but like those three are really the ones.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Derrick Henry is really the only Titan I would take. My biggest take is, I've talked about this with Joe, and he made fun of me a little bit, which rightfully so. It is kind of a hot take. I would take Bijan Robinson as high as third overall. I know you take the two wide receivers at the top.
I was
two in
thinking
the
about
draft.
this very thought today.
The top two
It's
in
like,
the
how
draft
high
are,
would I take him?
yeah, it's been a while since wide receivers have gone 1-2 in an NFL fantasy football draft.
It sure
But Jamar
has.
Chase and Justin Jefferson, I think, are so ahead of everybody. I would take them the first two. But if I'm just strictly thinking running back, or if you're in a running back heavy league, like for whatever reason, commissioner makes funky rules or whatever,
This is a great
Bijan
topic.
Robinson.
Yep.
Bijan Robinson.
I
Unreal.
wanted the Bears to draft him.
No, I mean, I was thinking like,
I was like,
I love the player.
7 overall, man. Let's get him. You know. Well, we got his.
I love the
backup.
player. I just think I'd
think,
rather have
I think
CMC.
Roshan might. I've been taking Roshan the 15th, 16th round just in case he ends up winning that job. Great pass receiver. He's a good short yardage back to it. He can break off some runs. Got great vision. That great cutback runner, which is the system the Bears run. The zone blocking. One cut. And go. But there's it's a great top. I thought about that very thing today. I'm like, how high would I take Bijan? And it's like, unfortunately, like I had the number one pick in the rank league. I'm like, what the fuck, man? All right, I'll take Justin Jefferson. Fuck it. And sorry about the language. But,
Don't worry about
and
it.
then I have 2 and 3 in I don't know. I think Barham I'm drafting third. So I'm like, how high would I take Bijan? Like, I wonder. You end up taking like McCaffrey or Eckler. Like both those guys are injury prone, and they're going to be feeding the ball to Bijan. Man, I'll bet you Bijan gets more carries than both those guys.
yeah. And I hesitate a little bit because I thought Kyle Pitts would be a top 5 tight end in his rookie year. He wasn't. So I get a little worried about that, but it'll be less quarterback reliant, obviously, than a receiving tight end. You could put in a game manager in there at tight end, and a running back or at quarterback, and then a running back could do really well, which is similar to what you guys were saying with Adams in Green Bay. If Jordan Love is just average, but he hands the ball off a lot, the Packers will be a pretty good team, I think, or maybe. But yeah, I love the Bijan Robinson thing. I'm with you. Aldo and I both wanted the Bears to take Roshan whenever he was, projected to go. The Bears had a couple mid-round picks there. And a lot of people say, and I don't have any connections in the NFL like I do the MLB, but I've seen people on TV say if Roshan Johnson went to 99% of the rest of the schools in the country and would have been their running back one, he would have been a top round, or at least a top 2 round running back in the real NFL draft.
Yep, totally agree. Yeah, it's why there's a lot of guys. If we're talking rookies, there's a lot of guys out there who can possibly break out a little bit this year. I mentioned one of them on the Ravens. If you watch any clips of Zay Flowers, man, that dude's like uncoverable. He's like small and shifty, and an interesting guy is a guy that went to college out here in Iowa City. Sam Laporta on the Lions. He was the best receiver on the Hawkeyes, and from all that he's been getting to play from Jared Goff in the passing game. So it's an interesting late round pick. Then of course you got Michael Mayer. Tight end is really intriguing this year. If you miss out on Kelsey and possibly like Mark Andrews or Hawkinson, who, Hawkinson could put up decent numbers with the Vikings. That is a pass-heavy offense. High volume.
He still hasn't been playing though. There's weird stuff going on with him.
Yep. Another.
What about
Iowa.
Waller and Kittle?
Waller's a good sleeper. I mean, Kittle, another Iowa. We got a lot of Iowa tight ends in the NFL.
Yeah.
Kittle, last half of the season, he was just monstrous. Man, beast. Another guy that's injury prone. Hawkinson, Kittle, Wall. These late round guys like Michael Mayer, the Notre Dame tight end, who's taken Waller's place in Vegas, and then like I mentioned, Sam Laporta, and then Cole Kmet. Love him or hate him, he's had decent numbers. He's the only tight end in NFL history in his first 3 years to have one season where he had 50 catches, over 500 yards, and over 5 touchdowns. He ended up with over 50 catches, 700 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And that was just in his third year. Now we've got a better offensive line in Chicago, and by all accounts, Fields he can't have anything but more time than he had last year. He had no time at all. I watched Braxton Jones in this last game. He looked pretty fucking good. The left tackle, Darnell Wright. The only thing to slow down this kid is injuries. He's good. The offensive line, they're having trouble at the center and guard positions. But hopefully they have to pick up a street center. They lost Kramer. Whitehair's got the injury, can't snap. They should start looking at finding a center. And cut downs. But, if you're going with Lucas Patrick, I don't know if I like this guy, Patrick. I don't think he's that good. But, he's all we got right now. So.
And Tucci, we're talking about rookies and we're talking about the tight end position. I got to get your thoughts on Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo
Another
Bills.
guy. I meant to mention him as well. They just gave Dawson Knox a huge contract. So I don't know Kincaid's a better player than Knox. I'll tell you that right now. But
better receiver, I think.
A better receiver, Knox. Knox I had drafted a few times, and he never does anything.
Boomer bust.
Allen is not a guy that looks to the tight end first. He looks to the wide receivers.
Except for Haley Steinfeld.
And then
I'm here all week, folks.
Nice.
The Packers have another rookie tight end as well, Luke Musgrave, who looks like he might be able to play. That's another team that doesn't use the tight end. They've used the tight end since Mark Chimura and Keith Jackson.
Yeah. And
so
Vinny.
funny.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I studied all these guys covering the Jaguars for Fansided because I thought for sure that the Jaguars were going to draft their tight end. They ended up with none of them. They extended Evan Engram, who I would consider a top 10 fantasy football.
Just about to ask you about him.
If you're a 10-man league, he's a starting tight end, I think. Same thing like what you were saying for Kmet. But, yeah, I like Kincaid too. Kincaid and now I'm drawing a blank on his name.
What about Gerald Everett?
Gerald Everett.
Had some decent numbers last year. Joe loved
Tucci knows I fucking love Gerald Everett.
Yeah.
He was actually pretty decent the second half of the season. First half of the season took him a little while to get going, but might have a decent year this year. I'm kind of intrigued what New Orleans is going to do with Derek Carr now that they've got like a bona fide thrower of the football. We thought Jameis Winston's supposed to be that guy, and he had a 30 interception season a couple of years back. But
30 touchdowns too. 30 touchdowns too.
30 touchdowns as well too. He was lighting it up, man. He had like 400, 500 yards a game a couple times.
Yep.
Chris Olave is a top 15 wide receiver.
You got Olave, who rookie year had 1,000 yards. You got Michael Thomas, who one time was the number one wide receiver in the league. Until injuries. But with Thomas's size, I don't know how much get off he has now though. That's what worries me. But his size is going to body people in the red zone. He's so big. You're talking like Claypool and who some Mike Williams. Those guys are like big bodies, be down in the red zone. But there's some late round tight ends. That's what interests me. If you miss out on those top guys, that was my point. Late round tight ends, like you mentioned, Everett. Ingram. Ingram's a good late round tight end if you miss out on those guys. Because Trevor Lawrence I expect him to take it, whether it's a small step or a medium step or a large step, he's going to take a step. He's got another year in Doug Peterson's system. That's you know, what do you guys think of Lawrence as a starting fantasy quarterback?
Trevor Lawrence is going to be a top 5 QB this year, and that whole offense. Calvin Ridley is going to be a top 15 wide receiver with potential to be top 5. Don't let him.
Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Just say just don't let him get near the casino is what I was going to say.
Yeah, 100%. Don't let him go when they play Vegas, scratch him. I don't think they play them this year. Trevor Lawrence, he has a big 3, right? I think the world of Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones. And then their running back core, I mean, Tank Bigsby can be right there with Travis Etienne. And like
super
those
sleeper right there.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I love 100%. Tank in like the last couple rounds. Yeah.
And, with Ingram, I didn't even say him when mentioning all the receiver weapons, right? Like they have 5 or 6 pieces on offense that can help make Trevor really comfortable this year. I think he took a huge step last year going out and winning a division after starting 2-6, erasing a 27-0 deficit in the postseason and coming back and beating a team like the Chargers. The Jaguars are going to be damn good this year. I can honestly,
I'll never forget that game.
I know, isn't that unreal?
There was a dude that bet like $1 million to win like what 10,000 or something.
Yeah,
and lost.
Yeah, that's funny
on the Chargers.
Yeah, when they were up, that's crazy.
Oh my God.
They are the type of team that, like, because they play in the South and they should very realistically go 6-0 in their division. And then if they can go, because they got the first place schedule too, so they have Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. If you go 1-2 in those games, or let's pretend you go 2-3, you could be cooking with a first round bye. So I mean,
it's their division to lose.
It is.
I mean, Tennessee might give them a little trouble, but I mean, look, Houston is and Indianapolis are playing rookie quarterbacks, so
it's true.
There's not it's the Jaguars' division to lose. The Chiefs are probably they're definitely the favorites as far as Vegas is concerned to win the West. But man, I tell you, the Chargers could give them a run for their money this year, and if Chris Jones leaves, that defense is going to suck. They're not going to cover a lot of spreads. And they already aren't covering spreads throughout the year. They haven't covered a big spread in 2-3 years. So you always count on someone covering a double-digit spread against the Chiefs. That defense, I'm not sure, will be good enough if they lose Chris Jones to win that division.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. It's tough sledding, and speaking of tough sledding, one of the big arguments this offseason in fantasy, and I'm sure Tooch has an interesting take on this, but a lot of people are saying, let's get rid of the fantasy kicker. Let's remove it from your league.
Yeah.
I can see both sides of it, Tooch, but I tend to kind of like the strategic thinking about a guy with a team that's not necessarily going to be good enough to get into the end of the end zone, but kick. I kind of like that strategy part of it. Everyone's like, oh, that's a total crapshoot. And it kind of is, but it like also takes a lot of thought too. Like, don't get me wrong. I like a couple of leagues where I'm in and I don't have a kicker, like the guillotine, for example.
Or
I don't know. Maybe I'm just a purist. I kind of like the kicker and the defense. I'm just my OG fantasyness liking that. I don't know. What do you think?
I could take them or leave them. I'll play with them or without them. It doesn't matter. I mean, it only makes it more interesting. If we're talking defenses, man, I'll tell you, watch out for the Browns defense. Yes, that's going to be a good defense this year. And then the
Browns
Steelers
are sneaky good too.
Sneaky good defense. And then the Steelers defense, always good, man. Tomlin always plays tough defense. I like those two defense. The Jets have a really good defensive line.
The Jets are elite. That defense is
secondary.
insane.
Yeah. That defense, I mean, that I have no idea who's going to win that AFC East. Like I said at the beginning, Bills, Jets, Dolphins. I don't think the Patriots will be as good, but I think the Patriots are going to finish fourth. I hate to say, I don't think they have the guns. They don't have a good quarterback. Belichick will put together good defensive schemes. They'll have a decent defense. Their offense is going to struggle, though.
Tooch, really quick, I have a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
First off, just rapid fire. Browns defense or Chiefs defense this year?
Browns.
Like not even close?
Not even close.
Because I'm
Miles Garrett, man.
The league I was in yesterday, the league I drafted yesterday,
Yeah.
I took the Chiefs, and my thought was the good teams always seem to have pretty good defenses. But then again, I'm like, the Chiefs are good. They win Super Bowls because they have number 15, right? And that offense just, carries them to a lot of wins. They could win the Super Bowl 40-35, and nobody would really think twice about that.
Yeah.
I mean, they needed their offense to beat the Eagles last year. And
with
then
Chris Jones,
so I got
they'll
that.
be okay. They'll be okay with Chris Jones.
Yeah. So
without
maybe
him, I don't know. But man, I love the
Browns
Browns.
are available. They're available, so I'm
The
thinking
Browns
about
are
it.
going to be fucking tough this year.
Yeah, I think so too. And my other question: do either of you follow Pete Blackburn on Twitter?
I don't think
Uh,
so.
He's a
I
very
would like
I do.
to.
He's a very
I
good
think I
Twitter
do.
follow. He does all sports. There's a little bit of extra love for hockey in the winter time, but
Mhm.
a lot of football and a lot of baseball. Boston kid. He plays in a league where they have a kicker, but if they miss a field goal or an extra point, it is minus 50 points. And last year, he was in a playoff game. I forget what game. I think it was.
I would never play a kicker.
Who's Matt Gay on? What team is he on? Is he on the Chargers?
He's on a
He
new
was-
team now.
Who was he on last year? Who was he on last year?
I think he's on the Colts this year.
Was it the
That
Chargers
kid
last
was
year?
on the-
on the Colts, yes.
He was
But
on
was
the
he on-
Buccaneers last year?
I think he was on the Bucks last
The
year.
Rams.
Okay.
Maybe the Rams.
Maybe it was the Rams.
I think
But
it
he's
was
on the
Rams.
Colts now.
He's
Ooh,
on the Colts now.
It was the Rams. You're right, Tooch,
Yeah,
because
I
it
think
was
the Rams.
And Pete had the win locked up. His opponent was done with players,
Oh.
and his roster only had the kicker left, and he was winning the game. So the smart thing to do would be to bench. Oh,
Bench
I've
your
left out a
kicker.
major detail. If you bench your kicker,
Ah.
that's it. If you bench your kicker, you put
Minus
$5 towards the league poll.
Oh, okay.
So he could have
So
paid the $5, had all of his buddies rip him to shreds,
Yep.
or he could take the risk, let him kick. You know what happened.
He missed.
He lost the game because he missed
I'd
one
pay the
late in game.
$5 every time.
Every
So
week.
you pay the
85
money.
Here's my 85
And
bucks. There you go.
week after week, if people pay
90
the
bucks.
$5, it adds up and it goes to the winner. It's fun,
Yeah.
right? But
$90 for every player? Shit.
yeah,
That's an extra
In the playoffs,
900 bucks.
exactly.
In the playoffs, if I'm winning, I'm benching my kicker every week if I have the lead going into the,
Exactly, but
Yeah.
he didn't want to get made fun of. He live streamed himself watching the game, and it was one of my favorite moments of the entire NFL season last year. Like, we had an epic Super Bowl, two
That's
great teams. The
painful.
playoffs were incredible. Chiefs Bengals was incredible in the AFC title game. I honestly think my favorite part was watching him miss that field goal and watching Pete just go crazy. So I want to play in a league like that. So I'm pro
I will-
kicker if you have fun rules like that.
Yeah.
I will say all of our leagues that you're in with me, well, I guess the ballroom and my other league, the Goon League, we do have -3 for a missed PAT.
That's pretty. That's
Not bad.
that's a hefty punishment. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
minus 50, but if every time a
Still.
guy misses, if you have a Cody Parkey type game where you miss 3-4, we're talking 12 points off your thing.
Yep.
And that
Kairos
very
Sanchez.
much does happen. Yeah, exactly. Cairo
Who
Sanchez.
was it last year that missed like 6 in a row? Was it Brett Mayer from the Cowboys,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. It
How
was.
how early is too early to draft a kicker? Because you see like Justin Tucker and Evan McPherson going like the 11th round.
Too early.
It depends on
To
the
me,
league.
that's too
for me.
early. But
In this league I drafted yesterday, there's 3 individual defensive players you can draft.
okay.
And so you get points for like tackles and sacks. And
Yeah.
obviously those are normally my last 3 picks. So the third to last pick is when I take a kicker. I ended up with Graham Gano from
Right.
the New York
That's
Football
okay.
Giants. It's a good kicker, right?
So,
Yep.
kicker for me, you can't take. It's either the second to last or the last round. I won't take a kicker before then.
I hate to. Yeah, it's tough though. But I mean, like these mock drafts, like whether it's the AI or just other players. They're taking kickers, 11 through 14, so it's like you're kind of like, God damn it, I want to at least have a guy that can fucking kick,
Yeah.
And then defense, you see like the Eagles probably the top one now that they have Jalen Carter.
Eagles are the Jets.
Eagles, Jets, defense.
49ers.
Yeah, I don't know if the 49ers will be – I mean, they'll be good, but I don't think their offense is going to be that good this year.
You're not a Brock Purdy guy, huh?
I loved Brock Purdy when he was at Iowa State, but
he
I don't know.
Hasn't lost a game that he started and finished.
Yeah, I mean, he's better than the guy they traded to Dallas.
I agree. And apparently Sam Darnold has had this great preseason.
Yeah.
And, if you only based who's starting
That's
on the
the thing.
preseason, it would be him.
Yeah, if Purdy F's up, they've got Darnold. They can just, hey, you know what, Brock, it's not working out. We're gonna go with Sam this week. Shanahan's he's flighty like that. He does shit like that. Same with the running backs. Now that he's got McCaffrey, he's kind of just uses him. But before it'd be like, Jeff Wilson, you're the guy, or Elijah Mitchell, you're the guy. It doesn't matter. He'll go with whoever.
For sure.
But if Brock Purdy had left a year earlier, he would have been maybe a first or second round pick rather than the very last pick in the draft when he was drafted. Was it last year? What about Ezekiel Elliott or James Cook? Which guy is going to be getting more points?
I think James Cook is. I'm going to give you a hot take.
Right.
James Cook is a top 10.
Ramondre Stevenson.
Oh,
Cook or Harris in Buffalo.
Cook, and I think Cook is a top 10 running back.
Zeke or Stevenson.
Stevenson all day.
I agree.
Zeke, what do you think he's getting? You think he might vulture some goal line carries, though?
Yeah, the big boy carries.
Yeah,
right?
Belichick likes to he'll run Stevenson all the way down to the 5, and then Zeke will come in and vulture the touchdown. That's what I'm afraid of with Stevenson. Stevenson,
that's what happened last year too.
Yeah, you get some pass. Yeah, Damian Harris got the goal line. But with Stevenson, you get the pass catching ability, right?
Yes, you get that. And Ezekiel Elliott, in my opinion, is one of the best blocking running backs in the NFL. And Belichick is going to use that to his advantage. I'm thinking when he's out there, look for Mac Jones to throw it. They're trying to make him feel more comfortable. Yeah. Zeke is going to be a pass blocking running back. So I don't see much value in him fantasy wise.
So Brian Robinson or Antonio Gibson in Washington?
I like Robinson. I think he's more electric, but I like both of them this season.
I agree.
I like Robinson seems to be the kind of running back that Ron Rivera will pound, just pound and pound and pound. And Gibson might be more of a third down long yardage situation back, or where he can split him out wide, motion.
It's a great problem to have. He's got two great running backs. So I think the Commanders are going to be good this year. I really do.
Yep. Let's see. Dak Prescott. Are you avoiding him or drafting him? Because, what was it, a year or two ago, he was throwing 500 yards, 500 yards a game, Yeah,
I like Dak. I think he's, some people might not be comfortable with him as a starter, but I think if you're drafting him, he's going to have to be your starter. And I've seen Dak fall 7th, 8th round pretty religiously over the course of the last few weeks, whether it's a mock or a real draft I've done so far. Listen, I don't think you can get – I think it's great value for where he's being drafted. And look at the offense. They have a whole new attack. They have all these weapons. Brandon Cooks is there now with CeeDee Lamb. Of course, you guys have the amazing Tony Pollard, who I talked about already. You got a great offensive line.
Yeah. Mike McCarthy never saw a pass play he didn't like.
Tooch, are you a Cowboys fan?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know why. Okay.
I'm a Bears fan.
Oh, I figured. Okay, I'm not going to offend anybody then. I think I could think of 15 quarterbacks This is maybe my hot take. I think Dak
Better than
Prescott is
Dak.
the most overrated quarterback, maybe in the history of the NFL. They went from the second most overrated quarterback in the history of the NFL to the most overrated quarterback because Tony Romo was good. He wasn't great. And I think I would rather have Kirk
Overrated.
Cousins. I think I would rather have whoever's starting
That's
for San
interesting, yeah.
Francisco. I think I would rather have
Wow.
Jordan Love. I for sure would rather have Justin Fields. I'm being dead serious. This isn't hot take Vinny
How
trying
about
to get
Deshaun
clicks or
Watson
anything.
or Dak Prescott?
I would take Deshaun Watson in a heartbeat over Dak Prescott based on talent and fantasy.
So Dak's not going to get you the rushing touchdowns anymore. He's lost a step after injuries and age.
Mhm.
But, man, they like to air it out. That's the thing. And he's
And I
got Stevie Lamb. He's got Brandon Cooks. He's got, I don't know who's playing tight end over there now. They should have never let Dalton Schultz go.
No.
And then you got Tony Pollard and the little runner, Deuce Vaughn. I don't know who's playing tight end. You know who's playing tight end for the Cowboys? I got no idea.
I could look it up. I think their strong
just
running
pulling
game.
up the depth chart.
Their strong running game hurts Dak's fantasy value too. And I hate McCarthy calling plays.
Yeah, he's the worst. But
Jake Ferguson
Jake Ferguson, never heard of him. Sorry.
and Luke Schoonmaker.
And then let's see. Yeah, the Vikings are going to be deadly with their three: Hawkinson, Jefferson, and Addison. Addison's a sneaky pick, man. I'll tell you, he's a good ball player. And if Justin Jefferson's getting double covered all the time, Addison's going to have some big games. Oh, how about would you be averse to having Amon-Ra St. Brown as your number one wide receiver because he's being drafted as a number one?
So this may be a hot take. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the number one wide receiver at the end of the season.
Wow.
I would take Amon-Ra.
Yeah.
Again, if I'm in one or two, I am still taking JJ or Chase. But I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, if he's healthy throughout the whole course of the year, I mean, last year he sat out, I don't remember how many games. He missed, I think, maybe 4 games last year, something like that. He still finished as a number 7. Number 7 wideout.
Add Jared Goff to the list of quarterbacks I'd rather have than Dak Prescott in real life and fantasy.
Jared Goff, did you see his camp? I mean, this guy has been ridiculous. That offense is ridiculous. Jahmyr Gibbs is another league winner, in my opinion.
What about the guy that left and who's going to be over in Philadelphia now, DeAndre Swift? Aversion to drafting DeAndre?
I think that backfield's a little messy for me over there. I don't love
Swift.
Swift.
Who else do you have? Oh, I forget. There's another dude over there too. You got Swift, and then you got. I know you have Kenneth Gainwell, but there's someone else.
It's Gainwell. You got Rashad Penny.
Yeah, Rashad Penny. That's the guy I'm thinking of.
And you got Trey Sermon.
Nah, he sucks.
But
Penny.
But
Rashad Penny might give he's never been healthy, for God's sakes. I don't think I would ever draft Rashad Penny, just the injury history.
It's a logjam. I just
DeAndre Swift is always injured though too.
Yeah, the whole backfield in Philly for me is you got to wait and see. I'm not confident taking any of those guys.
Yeah, and Gainwell's good, but he's a little guy. You know, I don't know if you take it every
the
down
backfield.
pound.
So it's a weird team for a running back.
They let their best running back go.
Yeah,
you know he's in Carolina now. What do you think about draft? Speaking of Miles Sanders at Carolina, exciting?
No.
I mean, he'll be the number one guy there for sure. You talk about
that offensive line is awful. I don't think Miles Sanders is running anywhere this year.
What about Dameon Pierce?
The Texans suck too.
Yeah, but Pierce is good, man.
Pierce is good.
I just don't know if the new coach is going to use him like Lovey did. But Pierce is a good back, man.
Pierce is a mid-round pick with high upside, but again, their offensive line's not good. Their offense isn't good. They're going to stack the box.
We might as well start talking about some of these mid-round backs, you know, because that's where your league is won and lost. You know, you got Brian Robinson, Dameon Pierce. What about Alex Madison, who's taken Dalvin Cook's place? That excite you?
I do like Alexander Madison because this is a guy that's going into a starting role on one of the most explosive offenses in the league. It's
And he
going to
can
go
catch
through
the ball.
He can catch the
Good
ball. It's going to go
receiver,
through Justin Jefferson. They've got a talented core of offensive folks.
Yeah.
You know, I do think that Madison is a great mid-round pick, and he's got high upside.
Yep. What about J.K. Dobbins?
See, I'm not on the Dobbins train. Vinny, I feel like you're on the same page with me there. Dobbins is.
I feel like neither
healthy.
of you guys have any Dobbins shares.
I have him in this league. I'm looking now.
All right.
But
I like Dobbins this year.
I
know
thought
how
you didn't like
Baltimore
him,
is with running back, man.
I don't love him, but this is I've already given you a couple of the complex rules of this league. One of the other things that make this league hard is there's like 3 flexes. So you have like a shit ton of players. It's a deep league that's not that deep, if that makes sense. So you need people like Dobbins in the later rounds. Like you end up with players you don't love like earlier in the draft, but then they become available later on, and it's like, okay, now I'm down on this guy. Let's do it.
Late round, another middle round running back that intrigues me is Javonte Williams. Is that his name? Javonte Williams, Broncos. Sean Payton always has running backs that finish in like the top 10. You know, so this guy is intriguing. I don't know, is Melvin Gordon still over there?
I honestly don't know.
I believe so.
I think he is still, but I mean, I know he split time, but Javonte, that was his job by the end of the season. You know, like Melvin Gordon was kind of just,
no, Melvin Gordon's not there
he's
anymore.
He's with the Ravens. He's with the Ravens.
They have Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine.
Yeah, okay. P. Ryan's interesting too because he catches the ball. You know, he's like he's a good pass blocker too, and he can run the ball. So it's a little.
P. Ryan's a great late round flyer.
Yep. Yeah, that's intriguing. I don't think Denver's going to be very good. I'm still not sold on Russ. You know, but Sean Payton's a good coach. So I'm not drafting Russell Wilson after last year, but you know, Sean Payton, he takes clay and he molds it. You know, I wouldn't be adverse to drafting Javonte Williams. I think that kid could be a stud.
Yeah, no, he's got high upside for sure. But I mean, the Broncos are off to a bad break with Jerry Jeudy. You know, he's already going to be out for several weeks. He suffered a hamstring injury. They haven't said what extent it is, but he couldn't put any weight on it. I would expect him to be out at least 6 weeks. And he's a pup candidate at this point. You know, I'm waiting to see there, but it definitely gives me better feeling about another late round flyer in Cortland Sutton. This is a guy now who's instantly thwarted into that number 1 wide receiver role. Yeah. And I definitely like him better because of the injury.
Right. Judy's injured. I don't know when he's coming back. And then they had was it Tim Patrick? Is that a dude? They still have him?
Tim Patrick. Yep.
Yeah, he's not bad.
Tim Patrick is currently on the Denver Broncos still as well.
But Tim Patrick's on the IR. So you're looking at Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims,
right?
Marquez
Mims.
Callaway.
People are high on him. Marvin Mims.
Little Jordan Humphrey. Of course, you got Jerry Jeudy, who's probably going to be put on the pup list.
I feel like if I draft Little Jordan, some people are going to make fun of me. He's off my board. Little Jordan Humphrey. I don't care who he is. The Cardinals. James Conner's always been pretty decent, but their offense is going to blow.
James Conner's the only draftable.
He's the only draftable player. They have Hollywood Brown, but there's nobody really get him the ball. It's like, what is it? Colt McCoy, is he starting for the?
They cut him.
Cardinals. Did they cut Colt? So who's starting?
They cut Colt McCoy, the kid they just traded for.
Which is who?
Yeah, Colt McCoy was cut.
I have it right here.
Wow.
That's Josh Dobbs.
Yeah,
Joshua Dobbs.
Man, I'm not sure he's any better than Colt McCoy. I think both.
No, I think that's what we were talking about with tanking. They want Caleb Williams and they don't want Tampa Bay or Carolina or the Colts, whoever it is you think are going to be in contention.
Colts,
to possibly
Tampa,
be
Arizona. Those are the Panthers. Those are the 4 worst teams this year.
Yeah, I want it to be Tampa, but I don't see it not being the Cardinals, just using my realistic brain.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Tampa at least has a serviceable quarterback.
Yep.
Josh
true.
Dobbs. Oh, my God.
Yeah, people like to crap on Baker Mayfield. You'll see this season real quick how Baker Mayfield is an improvement over just a random like backup or like third string like the Cardinals are going to use. So
Yep.
We'll see.
Another guy that's kind of interesting to me is Juju Smith-Schuster over in New England, because there really isn't anybody else there. And Jacoby Myers is gone.
In Vegas.
I think they drafted a wide receiver this year, but I mean, Juju's a guy. He's going to be the main target. They'll run the two tight ends. They've got Mike Gesicki and I forget the other kid, Hunter. What is that guy's name? Hunter Henry.
Oh yeah,
Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. They'll use those two tight ends like they did with Gronk and the murderer guy. What was that?
Aaron Hernandez.
Aaron Hernandez. Yeah.
A murderer guy.
So they've got a really good tight end room in New England. They've got, of course, we talked about Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, and Anthony Ferkser. Those are solid. That's a solid tight end room.
They're going to run two tight ends all the time. Then you're going to have Juju. Juju might catch 7 passes a game.
I forgot you also have Devontae Parker.
Yeah.
And you have Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah. They're just guys. But Juju body, he's big body. They'll put him in the slot too. And they've got this guy who's a quarterback at Louisville, Malik Cunningham, I think. That's his name.
Yeah,
Malik
he's
Cunningham.
third. Yeah, he's third string.
They're going to use him all over the place. Wildcat, running back, wide receiver in the slot. They converted Julian Edelman from quarterback into a slot receiver. This Bell, I guarantee you that this might be a little sneaky pick. He's going to return punts. Malik Cunningham's like a guy. He might be in that. Remember Julian Edelman would catch 100 passes a game, Joe? You used to like drafting Edelman
every year.
Because he was solid.
I drafted him every year.
Yeah. Yeah. You could him and Juju might get that. I mean, Juju's best in the slot too. But him and Juju might get whichever one of those guys is going to be in the slot for Mac Jones is going to get 6-7 catches a game.
Never count the Patriots out, but I will say the only two wide receivers that are draftable is Juju and Devontae Parker, and they're all late round flyers.
Yeah, I don't even know. I would take a chance on Juju in the late rounds. If I didn't get 3, if I got 3, if I'm weak and I'm looking for like a 4th or 5th receiver, I would take Juju, and you could slide him in there in a flex. If you've got bye weeks.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen Juju get drafted actually in any of my leagues.
No
so
shit.
far.
I've seen him get drafted.
I don't think he got drafted in the ranked league. I have to go back and look.
I'm going to look in my
Vinny, Dak Prescott or Daniel Jones?
Danny Dimes.
Danny Dimes.
No, I think I'm totally joking. Okay. I would take Dak.
I like Jones, man.
I like Jones too. I see Trubisky, that type of season coming up. And last year was 2018.
I couldn't disagree more with you, Vin.
Really?
Danny Dimes has one difference. Second year in the Brian Dable offense.
Exactly. Yep.
And he has a brand new number 1 receiver. That's not a receiver. It's Darren Waller.
Yeah.
He's got Jalen Hyatt too, man.
They're going to be good. The Giants are going to be good. Saquon Barkley is going to have a resurgent year as well.
I hope he makes me eat my words because I like Daniel Jones. I see a lot of like an Alex Smith in him too. Like that's like the upside. Trubisky's like his floor. And then I think that someone like Alex Smith could be a ceiling because Trubisky had a Pro Bowl season. People forget that. He was a reserve, but he made it. And, he had a year where they were good and he was a good player on a good team. That was Daniel Jones last year. He'll either come out and do it again or he'll regress like the aforementioned Mitch. I don't know why that's always been my comparison for him. It's a good division. They're going to play the Eagles twice and the Cowboys twice. I don't know what I think about the Commanders. one of the 3 teams to go undefeated in the preseason are the Commanders. Not that that is relevant in any way, shape, or form, but it means you played 4 good quarters of football, no matter who was on the field 3 straight times. Nobody else can say that. I do think that, it doesn't mean anything for the regular season, but I mean, it's better than being 0-3 in my opinion. But we'll see what happens there.
I was handicapping that game between the Commanders and the Ravens, and I was telling my partner Anthony, who does weekend sports betting tips with me, I was like, I bet you Rivera wants to break Harbaugh's unbeaten preseason record. I guarantee he wants. I'm taking the Commanders money line. And
now that it was snapped,
motherfucker.
It was snapped, yeah.
I told you, Rivera will do whatever he can to snap that fucker.
That's funny. That's funny. Freaking play all his best players in the fourth quarter on a game-winning drive.
If
get your helmet back on.
Preseason prediction, quarterbacks were top 5 for Justin Fields, Joe.
Yeah, Justin Fields for me is a top 5 with the potential to
finish,
be
top,
the number
top 5 finish.
If he's healthy, a top 5 finish, and easily could be the number 1 and could be the top pick of fantasy drafts next year if he does what a lot of people think he can do.
Vinny says no. Top 5.
No, I would. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow.
They don't use their legs though. Maybe Allen, but
I know, but Lawrence.
Lamar Jackson?
No, I was thinking Herbert. Lamar Jackson, if healthy, but I think him and Fields kind of get their points in a very similar style.
Yeah.
If Justin can develop a pocket presence and take advantage of having a big 3 receiver core now, then I think he could even pass Lamar in terms of overall fantasy production, because he'll also use his arm, where Lamar hardly has in his career. Like, he has, but not to like an elite level. He's an MVP caliber player.
He can really sling it too, Lamar
He
Jackson.
really can. He really can. And for me, it's about him being on the field. I guess I could say the same thing about Justin too, though. Like, he's not been the most totally. Yeah. So, we'll see what happens there. But I think as a safe bet, I would take those 5 I named ahead: Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, and Lawrence. And Joe makes a good point. Running, that's a huge thing. That is a huge thing. If he can prove me that he'll do it again.
Who the top 3 rushers in the NFL were last season?
Amongst quarterbacks?
No, everybody in the league.
Oh, everybody in the league? I mean, there was a lot of split carrying, but I would imagine Jonathan Taylor was not one of them.
Nope.
Was Austin Eckler one of them?
Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, and then Justin Fields.
Wow, Nick Chubb had more than
those are the top 3 rushing yardage leaders for the NFL last season.
That's crazy.
Got to be Josh Jacobs isn't in that list. Josh Jacobs got to be on that list.
Don't know. I think I know he was one of the top 3 rushers. Somebody was injured then. Maybe it wasn't.
Hang on, here we go.
Jacobs.
No, here I got the 2022 rushing stats for the NFL.
Yep.
Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing with 1650. Jacobs, Henry, Chubb, Saquon.
Okay, I thought Fields was up there.
Sanders, Cook, and then Fields.
Okay, so Fields
still
was
not
up
bad.
There.
Still not bad.
Still not bad. What number was he? 9th?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Dude, you're feeding us wrong information.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding. I don't really care. That's funny. I mean, your point stands. Your point stands. Your point absolutely stands.
I'm 55 years old. I might, my memory ain't as good as it used to be. But
you know what? I legitimately believe your point still stands. He's a top 10 rusher as a quarterback.
Yeah, top 7 rusher, and he was a quarterback. But this, when we saw the Bears' first preseason game, we had Justin Fields' first 2 possessions. He had nice long touchdown throws, on screen passes. But the way what set that up was his threat to run, all those long runs he had during the season, where he kind of like fake like he was going to run. And teams were, they're legitimately scared of him taking it to the house, that he could hit a long touchdown, whether it's a screen or airing it out this year. And if he does that, he will be a top 5 quarterback. If he uses that to his advantage, the threat to run, I guarantee you Bears coaches do not want him to run as much. And, and that's understandable. because you don't want the dude to get injured. But he's a big kid though. I mean, he's like what 6'2", 230. He can handle take the hits. He's tough, but ideally you don't want him rushing as much as he did last year. But if like Vinny's saying, this year might not be the year that he does all that stuff. It might be next year. He's got another year in the West Coast offense. I mean, that's why PJ Walker didn't make the team. The freaking offense is tough to learn. It's like the biggest playbook in the NFL. The West Coast offense is it's the biggest. It has terminology that you have to know. A lot of different terminology, a lot of different words they use for their plays. And then Nathan Peterman, he's been in West Coast offenses for the 6 years he's been in the NFL. And then Tyson Bagent, he threw 2,000 yards. Shepard runs a pro-style offense. The kid just worked his ass off. PJ Walker maybe thought he had the team made, and then doesn't know the West Coast offense. I guarantee you, Carolina
disappointed.
Yeah, he didn't know the offense. Maybe didn't study as hard as he should. It's a tough offense to learn. He might have needed a lot more time. But I think that the kid earned the starting job. I'm glad they didn't get rid of him. I don't think he made it through waivers.
I believe you should earn stuff in the preseason. It should exist for a reason, and Bagent definitely earned it. And like I think someone mentioned in the show earlier, he's similar looking to Fields in terms of how he plays football. And I think it's good to have a backup quarterback that doesn't make you change things completely around.
That's why they signed Walker.
Yeah, exactly. But he did not play well.
Another Fields.
And you knew Peterman was making the team regardless. They were battling for second and cut, QB2 and cut, because QB3 was Peterman no matter what for completely off the field related things.
Exactly. He's the guy on the sideline or the guy in the quarterback room that's telling the young quarterbacks, how to view this defense or how to understand which plays are called and which plays to audible in the West Coast.
Credit to Peterman.
If they would have cut Bagent, I bet you Arizona might have picked him up.
I don't see how someone doesn't.
Yeah.
Like
the Cardinals, I could see them picking him up. And this is a guy that we can get through the season respectably.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, but let's see. Late round guys, Joe.
I like the backup in Cincinnati. I drafted him in my ESPN league yesterday. As you guys know, I like the Bengals. I have a lot of Bengals in my team in Greg Braggs' league that I drafted yesterday. Yeah. But in the last round of the draft, I was able to pick up the backup running back for the Cincinnati Bengals, which is Chase Brown, who is a very talented back that was drafted.
Yeah, Illini.
And he was available at the very end of the draft. He's won that number 2 job, at least for right now.
How old is Joe Mixon, man? That dude's been in the league forever, and he's still good.
He's a dog.
I don't think I've never had him on my team, and I'm always like, why didn't I draft him? I'm always like, this is 27. The year. He seems like he's 35. Yeah, it's like how long
in NFL years.
Yeah, he's been in the NFL a long time. He's only 27 years old. The dude's a stud. I've never had him on a team. I've wanted to draft him, and I'm always like, this is the year he's going to get injured and not play. But the dude's always there. He catches the ball. He gets you a decent amount of rush yards, decent amount of catches, gets you a decent amount of touchdowns. He's solid as hell. Another mid-round running back. If you miss on some of those early guys, you could take him, and fill out a roster pretty well.
Yeah, I love that, man. Lots of great options in the middle of the pack.
What about Najee Harris?
It's a guy I'm not touching.
Yeah, I know. It's
I'm sorry, Vin.
Joe, you got to remember the league, though.
Yeah, the league.
You got to remember the league. There is 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 1, 2, 3,
3 flex,
3 flexes. Yeah.
I like him better as a third or second flex.
Yeah, that's what he'll be for me because I got Bijan Robinson. I kind of scattered out my positions in this league. I ended up with Allen. I got Bijan, Keenan Allen, Christian Kirk, Waller, Johnson in Pittsburgh, Deontay Johnson, and Najee Harris. So
It's
we'll see.
he's so tempting. He's never averaged more than 3.4 yards per carry in a season, but he gets you a lot of catches. He's big, he's fairly durable. I don't think he's been injured much, and he gets you some decent fantasy points. But I think the kid behind him is going to push him this year, Jalen Warren. He's got breakaway speed. Najee Harris not a breakaway threat. He's more like a David Montgomery type. Caught from behind. He's going to get you the goal line touches. Even his goal line touches, he gets stuffed a lot.
I think Jalen Warren is this year's Tony Pollard.
There you go.
Fair
I think if you
He's
have
electric
Najee,
like that.
if you draft Najee Harris, you better pick up Jalen Warren as a handcuff.
Agreed. I agree.
Kareem Hunt, does he find a team?
Yeah, but probably not for a couple weeks until somebody gets hurt.
Someone will tear their ACL in week 2, and it'll be Kareem Hunt watch. from
Kareem,
that point on.
hey, what are you doing,
Yeah,
man?
I'm sorry. Hey, we didn't call you sooner.
Did I wake you up?
He's on a beach. He's on a beach in San Juan, Puerto Rico, just waiting.
Is he
call.
worth like a 16th round pick?
Yeah.
Just stash him on your bench.
I'm not wasting a pick on him right now.
I know I haven't yet, but I thought about it a few times. I'm like, you guys got legs like tree trunks. It's like jackhammers, 2 jackhammers. Yeah. The guy's tough. Jamal Williams had a ton of touchdowns last year for the Lions. He's on the Saints this year. Alvin Kamara's suspended the first 3 weeks?
Yeah, so Jamal Williams will be great for 3 weeks, and then he'll be Alvin Kamara injury watch. I do like a late flyer on Williams. I have him in 2 leagues. I've had 2 drafts, and I have him in both leagues.
It's a great pick in guillotine. Get through those first 3 weeks.
Who's that?
Jamal Williams.
Jamal Williams.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Kendre Miller is the other back there. He was a good running back. I think he was Arizona or TCU, something like that. And then Devin Singletary, he's in Houston. I always liked him. He was a good third running back when he was with the Bills.
But now he gets behind the big dog over there.
Yeah.
And Pierce. So
Pierce. Yep.
So I'm not touching him.
Pacheco McKinnon.
Neither. But I guess Pacheco by a hit.
I would too. And the team he plays for has a little bit to do with it. They're explosive. They'll be on the field a lot.
Yeah.
That's
Pacheco's not really like the receiver. You still have what's his name, Clyde Edwards and Jarrett McKinnon there. It's an odd running back situation. It is. McKinnon's the best running back out of the 3, I think, as far as running the ball and catching the ball. He's a great receiver out of the backfield. He's fast. I don't know if he can hold up the punishment. That's why they like pounding Pacheco. But Pacheco's not particularly big either. Yeah. And then you got the Miami Dolphins running back situation. It's like, who the hell do you grab there? I love Raheem Mostert. I mean, why are they they know something we don't know. They got a bunch of guys. They don't like any of them. They just,
Jonathan Taylor's they'll trade for him. He's young. They'll sign him, and then they'll be done with it. And then they'll cut one of those guys, or they'll include him in one of the trades. I think it's only a matter of time. Give it a couple of days, and he'll be on the Dolphins.
I hate to say it, but Rashad White on Tampa Bay, he's got no competition.
I love Rashad White. I drafted him last night in a league where I waited too long on running backs, but I do think he's going to be a real good option, as he doesn't have anybody else to challenge him, really.
Jahmyr Gibbs, man. Montgomery's going to get the goal line carries.
Gibbs is a league winner.
Gibbs is a guy between the 20s to me. I don't know if I could be wrong, but I think Montgomery they're going to use Montgomery a majority of the time. Gibbs is going to come in, long situations, try and get a long run, maybe throw. He's a good receiver. Montgomery also a great receiver though too. It's tough.
I'll give you a comparison of what it's going to be with Montgomery and Gibbs. It's going to be Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram.
Yeah, that's it. Yep,
identical.
Yeah,
both fantasy relevant.
That's Mark a great Ingram comp. Yep,
stole touchdowns. but Kamara was the fantasy beast. That's what it's going to be. Gibbs, I took him early in the rank league. I think I took him in the third round or late second because I had the wraparound after in the third pick or second pick. I mean, oh yeah, because you were sniping me all day. That was fun.
What about Cam Akers?
He's probably the guy there, but Cam Akers burned me so much. I would be okay if I never saw his name or heard about him again.
Injury
last year I took him with like a 5th round or 4th round pick.
He never played.
It murdered my team.
He never played. He hardly played. You get Rashad
I'll never
White.
forgive him.
Dalvin Cook, the starter in New York?
For the first 3 weeks, maybe, until Hall's fully back. I think it's more of a 50-50 split.
Carter, too.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, it's another 3-headed monster. Khalil Herbert, worth the pick?
I've gone up and down on the fence about this. Late round pick for both Bears. I can see them
using all 3 guys, man. I can see them using all 3 guys, rotating.
I agree.
You know,
guillotine league, yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
A normal 12-man league or 10-man league, nah.
Yep.
And guys, we've gone for 2 hours, so I want to start to kind of wrap. But I do want to talk a little bit about the Barroom League draft, which, by the way, we are streaming here on the Barroom Network a week from today. And it's going to be an hour later than usual. It's going to be 8 p.m. Central,
do you know
9
who
o'clock Eastern.
Some of the team owners are managers?
Yes,
it's us
and
3.
That's where I was.
And Aldo.
That's where I was about to go next. Yeah, so Barroom Network draft will include Larry Golden, Lauro Golden, of course, myself, the Tooch, our other fantasy football goon co-host Adam Sham, Ryan Kirkland Billings from the Barfly Tailgate Show,
Vinny
Parisi, Vinny's co-host from
Frankie
Mueller will be in the league. The Gaines report, Tyler Ellis will be in the league. Aaron Current,
Danny Shimon
put something against no Danny Shimon. Danny dropped out.
Danny's
of the
a
league
good player, man. He was a tough player, always competitive, drafts well.
Yep. So Aaron Current, we already mentioned. Aldo the barkeeper. No spaceball. Steven Zimmerman. And then new addition this year is Ross Reed will be on the show.
Love Ross. Well. Ross is good, man. No Mac, huh? Mac doesn't play fantasy, or
I only had one spot left, so
right.
But it's going to be a great draft. It's going to be here. I don't know how many of us will be on the draft. Streamyard can only have 10 at a time, but I believe Zim said he can't make it. I don't know who else. I'm not sure if Frankie can make it, but either way, we're gonna make it work. And
they'll still be drafting, right?
Yeah, we'll be drafting, and I'm probably gonna have 2 screens when we're drafting, so I can have my screen here and the share screen over here. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it, and of course, you can look forward to the Tooch, Adam Sham, and myself every single Sunday, right around 10:45 a.m. Central Time. In about the hour leading up to kickoff, we'll be talking about inactive, starts, sits, sleepers. You know what? We're going to do it every single Sunday of football season. It is coming your way. Football season is so close. I can taste it on the tip of my tongue. Tooch, can't thank you for sticking around with us for basically the last hour of the show, more than that. But it's definitely more entertaining talking fantasy than it is White Sox baseball. Right?
I'll tell you, man, ever since I was a little kid, my aunt and uncle used to live in Bridgeport. My Uncle Mike was a police officer, and he used to work the games, security at the games afterwards. I'd go, I think I was like 7 years old to 10 years old. I used to go down there, man. It was like 1976. I was 8. And I used to go and wait outside. My Uncle Mike would be like, go wait outside here, wait outside the locker room when the players come out. It was like Wilbur Wood, Terry Forster, Claudel Washington, Ralph Garr, the Roadrunner. Man, it's like I loved all these guys, man. They used to have one year they wore shorts.
I remember, man.
They had to slide in shorts, man. You better know how to slide right.
Yeah, they wore them as throwbacks one year. That's right.
Those are brutal.
Hilarious. Yeah, but I used to love it was old Comiskey. And I'd go to New Comiskey, and I went to the last game at Old Comiskey.
Nice.
That was fun. Tonight a 9-0 ass whipping at the hands of the Orioles.
No surprise there.
Talking of moving to Nashville, it's like if the team, I was going to ask you guys, the team moved to Nashville, would you guys still be fans?
No,
absolutely not. I would not. Foster thinks it's my fault that the Brewers are good. It might be.
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs. Des Moines has the Iowa Cubs, which is the AAA farm.
Yep.
Team
Go watch Peter Crow Armstrong. He's worth the price of admission on his own.
I went to our company had the company outing at the ballpark this year. I think Tauchman was on the team. He had a home run that day. Sergio Alcantara still down there. Decent player. He homered also. They blew out. I forget there was the Cardinals farm team, Memphis, and blew them out. But and for a while, the Iowa Cubs were in first place. The farm system in good shape. The White Sox, though, man, they have a lot of work to do. There's no Hahn, there's no Williams. Any thoughts on who might replace the GM in the White Sox South Side?
As long as it's not Chris Getz or Jim Thome, I'll be happy camper.
Is that is that the rumor?
Yeah.
Chris
Getz is the rumor.
Look out for Dan Evans. He is the. Well, he's with the Dodgers. He was the former Dodgers GM, and he was with the White Sox a little while back. He's responsible for Frank Thomas and McDowell and Ventura. He hired Kim Eng and trained her. She's the GM of the Marlins now. So that's who I'm hoping for at this moment.
Yeah, I'll take fucking Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill at this point.
That'd be awesome.
Vinny and I'll do it.
I would do it.
But talk of leaving guaranteed rate. How old is the ballpark?
Built in 1991, but they also refurbished. They did some work on it after the World Series win in 05 and 06. They did the work,
right,
and made it look different. So it's not that old.
91. I remember when it was built. There was, there were people like, well, the upper deck is really steep. I was like, I went to a game, how fucking steep could it be? It was fucking steep. It's like, when I went there, I was like, a little scary, man. If you're scared of heights, you get a little tinkly in the lowers, tingly.
Yeah.
But I guess they adjusted that, the angle, right, for the upper deck, like later on, you're talking about being refurbished.
Yeah, It's a little, it's still steep, don't get me wrong, but it's not.
Yeah.
You still don't want to fall up there. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yep. The Cubs are about a game out of wild card, 2 games maybe.
No, I think they're firmly in a wild card spot.
Okay, so you guys cannot root for the Cubs if they make the playoffs, or?
That's fine. I'll root for them. I don't care.
No, fuck no.
I'm not gonna. Correction.
My monetary well-being is impacted by the Cubs doing well, and I don't care.
The Marlins.
Yeah, you have.
I'll write about how they lost.
You have a futures on the Cubs winning the division?
No.
I
write about them for Fansided, so the longer they
just
last.
Cubbies. That's why you know about that. That's why you know about the Iowa Cubs. Then.
Yeah, it's not just the Cubs that I do. I do a bunch of teams, but. Okay. The Cubs are one of them, and I pretend to write nice things about them sometimes, but I don't mean it.
Right. I took the Reds when the Reds were on a hot streak to win the division. It doesn't look like they're going to win the 8 games back, and the Brewers have been so freaking hot recently. But the Reds to win the division back then was 9-1. But you put $50 on that, you're looking at $500.
Yeah, literally.
But I don't think the Reds just the bullpen sucks.
That's right.
The Cubs are getting derailed with the starting pitching injuries.
Yeah,
Stroman's out, but Justin Steele's dark horse Cy Young, man. That dude can throw. Reminds me a lot of some of those lefties the Sox used to throw out there, you know.
Yeah, back when they were decent, but
Yeah. Yep.
It's a thing of the past. But I tell you what is a thing of the past. It's also this show. We had a how's that for a transition?
My first time on Hitmen, I think, right?
Yeah, this is the Tooch's first time on South Burbs Hitmen. Appreciate you accepting the last-minute invite. We were talking pre-show, and we're like, yeah, we'll talk about the shooting. We'll talk about the relocation. And then I'm like, we should talk some fantasy. And I'm like, let's see if Adam and Tooch are available. I'm like, I know it's last minute, but appreciate you coming on. We had some fun, some great fantasy tips heading into the season since we weren't able to get in a fantasy preview show, but this sort of was it. We're going to hit the shout-out portion of our show. Tooch, since you're a guest, we'll let you do shout-outs first.
Oh, man. Shout out you two guys for having me on. Man, my card 4-1 today for people who subscribe to my picks. 4-1. I had the Phillies on the money line. Boston team total over 4.5. Twins on the money line. San Diego on the run line. And the Royals at home with Greinke lost. That was my one loss. But 4-1 today, up 4 units for subscribers. And shout out to Anthony and Sean. If you guys have seen Weekend Sports Betting Tips, those two guys are fucking hilarious. Sean Higgs. He's good stuff. He's been a professional handicapper since the 90s. And then, Anthony's my partner at Pounded Sports. And the show's funny, man. I was 6-2, college football, week 0. Massive 9 units for the day on college football. But English Premier League soccer, I'm 0-3 in my last 3. It's just bad beats.
It's tough.
Yep.
But again, appreciate you, Tooch. And as always, Vincenzo Parisi, what do you got for shout outs, buddy?
My girlfriend Katie, thank you very much for everything. I love you. Mom, Dad, Joe, we're moving into a new house. So got that going on. So
Hanover Park, or
I've been out of Hanover for a while. We're in Elgin now.
Elgin. So, my son's out that way. He's in rural Elgin, unincorporated Elgin. Joe, my son's 24 now.
Cool. Very cool. So Elgin's a nice place. Shout out them.
Yep.
We got a big week coming up.
26 now?
I'm 28.
28 now. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Time flies. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yep.
So shout out all of them.
Joey's 26 or 27?
26.
26. Okay.
2 years apart.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Love it, Vin. Of course, I'm going to give a shout out to our other co-host, Steven Zimmerman, who had to bail a little bit early because
he just disappeared.
His son kind of got into some stuff at the house, and he had to go jump into daddy duty. I've been there before, so appreciate you, Zim. Love you, buddy.
Lucky my wife was here to get the girls down to help me. I was watching them, but she usually sleeps. She's going on the night shift in a little bit, and I'd like to shout her out. I got the best wife, man. I know Joe's aren't going to argue, but
I was like, no, I do.
We're both blessed.
Yes, we are. We're both blessed with amazing wives, and that's where I was about to go with my shout out. Of course, shout out my beautiful wife, Catherine. I love you very much. Our 1.5-year-old daughter, Audrey, who is just absolutely amazing. Seeing a kid grow up, she's just amazing and beautiful and running and talking, and it's the cutest thing ever. Great Dane Maverick, he's just hilarious and the funniest dog ever.
How old is Maverick now?
Maverick is
5,
just turned 3.
3, okay. Got
my
Chase
friend
Miller.
Chase, my friend Chase Miller in the chat. Chase, thanks for tuning in, man. Appreciate it. We just got done talking some fantasy, and we're doing shout outs before we wrap things up. But of course, shout out my family. Shout out all my co-hosts, Zim, Vinny. It was great run into you at the ball game on Saturday. That was fun seeing you and Katie. We'll have to have you and Katie down here in Michigan for a weekend, or at least for a day. Have a good time. That'd be great. Looking forward to that. Tooch, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it was fun, man.
Of course, our other Fantasy Football Goon co-host, Adam Shum. Shout out to you, man. I know you were working tonight. You couldn't come on, but I don't even know how. Oh, Vinny Tooch turned that on because he's got hosting ability.
Yeah.
So how'd that happen?
Foster, those are all the players I would go see when I was a kid. He's got them all there, man. Chet Lemon, man, Ralph Garr, the Roadrunner, George Orta, Richie Zisk, maybe Eric Soderholm, Richie Zisk. They hit the ball a mile. Yeah, of course. You guys don't remember. You guys don't know any of those guys.
I was gonna say, I was like, I don't know any of those names, man. But that's
Claudell
before my
Washington.
time.
I was like, man, I love Claudell. He was awesome, man. He was a good hitter. I was like running around, Claudell, son, you sign my baseball. You know, he could sign my baseball. And like Terry Forster was like, kid, come here. And I didn't hear him. I was like, so trying to get everybody. And he had a baseball signed for me. Got a baseball from Terry Forster.
Love that.
Yep.
And I just said Adam Schaum, but as I talked about Tooch, Adam Schaum, and myself, a reminder again to everybody, Fantasy Football Goon coming your way on the Barroom Network every Sunday of football season, right around 10:45 Central, right after the Barfly Tailgate Show. We'll get you ready every week for fantasy football. And, of course, I want to give another shout-out to Mike North. I'm doing somebody big just died with Mike North when we have celebrity and, pop culture deaths. And we did one today a busy day for me, busy evening.
99 years old.
We did Bob Barker today, 99 years old, the legendary Bob Barker. So that was a great show. If you want to go check that out.
Hosting Price is Right when I was a kid.
He did it for 35 years.
Yeah. 70s? I thought it was the 80s. It was 80s then.
Tucci got as close to $1 as he could at 99.
Oh, man.
Yeah, 99 cents. That's right. But no.
Was that Mike's joke or your joke?
Neither of us did it. I just thought of it now.
That's a good one.
But
man.
I should have thought of that on the air. But it's all good.
Yep.
But shout out to Mike for trusting me to come on, and of course, another shout out to Aldo Gandia, the barkeeper, who's he's doing his thing. He's getting back to health and taking care of himself, and Mike trusted me to. Yeah.
Tomorrow night, Dan and Aldo show with Tooch.
That's right. You got Dan and Aldo tomorrow night. Great shows on the Barroom Network. You also got Gabriel talking football on Wednesday. You've got Bar Down talking hockey. You've got Crosstown Crosstalk coming up on Thursday.
The Golden Knights won it all. I was like, mid-season, I was like, I don't think they had a chance,
They were damn good.
They were damn good at the end of the season, man. They're damn good.
Anything can happen, but great shows coming up on the network. Make sure you mash that subscribe button because there's great barroom content coming to you all year long. We're talking Bears, talking fantasy. You got White Sox. You got everything, every sport you could ever imagine. We'll talk about it on here. Don't miss it. You're going to want to see it all. And, that's all I got for shout-outs. Hell of a show tonight, boys. Again, shout out to Steven Zim Zimmerman, who couldn't be here with us. Reminder to everybody, there is no South Burbs Hitmen a week from today on Labor Day. But we are doing the Barroom Network Fantasy Draft, which will be live here at 8 p.m. Central Time. Going to be a hell of a time.
The Goon League Draft is the day after, right?
The Goon League Draft is the day before. It is on Sunday, the day before Labor Day.
Okay. Sunday night, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So hell of a fun stuff coming up. Football season's on us. It's fantasy season. Hit us up at FFB Goon, at Joe Mandel, at Papa Bear. I don't know Adam's full handle off the top of my head. It's Papa Bear something. Tooch, what's your full handle now?
At John Santucci, VIP.
Yep, and Santucci VIP. And then Adam Schaum is at Papa Bear 816. So hit us up for the fantasy news you need. And, of course, we'll still be doing this show all the rest of the baseball season, talking White Sox, talking randomness, talking whatever we want to talk. Heck of a show tonight, guys.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add, Vin?
Good fantasy.
No. Keep watching the shows. Keep reading the articles. We'll see you guys real soon.
That's right. And as always, no matter how bad they suck, no matter how bad they get beat down, no matter how many bullets fall from the sky, that one's probably a little bit too soon of a joke. But as always, let's go White Sox, and we'll see you guys next week. Adios.